Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. We are the Bella Lost Souls podcast. I'm joined tonight by Val Helfinger and Chris Morgan.
Hello from both of us.
I'm ready to have a good night.
Justin Troop and Ricky Addington.
I'm the small knight.
I am the happiest knight right now.
Oh, I'm so sorry we missed last week. Thank you everybody for joining me. We're gonna make this a double-sized episode. In this episode, there's actually gonna be a segment from Val later on.
Oh my!
Completely produced by Val and plugged into this episode. And I have a spot with Jeff Robinson. It's like a chapter tactics invasion.
Okay, can I ask a question? So, like, in my head, it's like, you know, Paul Murphy is the host of Forge the Narrative, and Chris, you're like the co-host. You know, Troop and I were like panelists, I guess. So does that make Val now like our field reporter?
Is correspondent?
Correspondent. Ooh, yeah.
He's our international correspondent.
Yes. And here
That's
from
right.
the international desk, Val Heffelfinger. Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
We've basically gone to like the modern school of naming titles for people to help them feel better about their job.
Absolutely. We're like a cable news network now. This is gonna be great.
Just wait till you see my desk.
Oh, it's getting smashed by one of us. That's what
I sat
happens
on
to
it. I'm sorry.
to the what is it? The international desk at all wrestling events. It gets destroyed.
Troop off the top rope onto your desk.
All day.
I'm glad we're talking about epic stuff because we are going to be talking about knights. Now, I know our coverage is like there's a bunch of stuff out there already, so you know we don't have to go over everything in there. It's been on websites and other people's shows and stuff like that. I don't want to bore you with that. We're coming in late. I just want to talk about how cool the armigers are.
Oh, that's single-handedly the thing that got me most excited.
Oh, man, for 174 points. And I'm just going to jump right into it. Now, we got some other stuff to talk about later on down the way, I guess. But the armiger with the armiger autocannons, which are 0 points. I mean, you still have to pay for the chassis, which is 170 points. Then you have to pay the minimum you have to buy is a stubber, which is 4 points. So for 174 points, you get two 7 million inch range autocannons that are strength 7, neg 1 AP, so there's a drawback there, but they're 3 damage apiece, 2d3 shots each.
Each cannon.
I'm all of a sudden loving armigers.
I need a new tape measure for that distance.
I think you just say you're good.
And did you check out the range on those suckers?
It's 7. I said 70 million, obviously being a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's a 60-inch range.
And what, a 14-inch move or something?
They come standard with at the undamaged at a 14-inch move, and it doesn't take a penalty to move and fire.
Move and shoot.
Yeah. I mean, you're pretty much in table range. 74 inches is the effective threat range for this. I mean,
oh yeah.
I like them.
It's got 7 toughness and 12 wounds with a 3+ save, and this thing is actually like small enough to get cover from things.
This single-handedly invalidates just about every dreadnought chassis out there.
To be fair, yes, it does. Like, point for point, it does. But the things that you can take in a Dreadnought army are not things you can take in a Knight army. So what the Knight army really needed were things exactly like this.
Can we talk about the most important part of the new armigers is that how adorable are those little lance-looking autocannons? They're so cool. They look like a lance, you know, like a knight would carry. I love them.
I had not thought about that. I know you're going to have a lot of opinions on this show, and it's great. Ricky is a longtime Knight player. You have multiple versions, I think, of every single Knight.
Yeah, super fanboy. It's kind of funny. My mother picks on me every time she comes over to our house that we don't decorate at all. Like, my wife is always busy, and I just don't like, you know, decorating. But our living room, the one piece of decoration we have in our living room is an entire glass case, and it's got all of my knights in it. It's right on display. So that's I am a huge Knight fanboy.
And they're all Hawkshroud too. Sorry, Chris,
Hawkshroud.
But you didn't take a low road with painting. You picked a very difficult color scheme, and they all look amazing. You are multiple winner of best painted across the way for when when you don't win best sport, you typically pick up a best painted if you're bringing your knights. It's an absolute beautiful army, and I just want to. So when you're giving some opinions or even just kind of fanboy gushing, I wanted to properly set the context that you have earned that privilege.
I've earned it. Yes.
Well, I was just going to play the role of internet commentator, Facebook group, Denzian, who are all saying that these lovely models, these amazing units, are never going to see the board ever because of the fact that they don't grant CP. Are we still as excited about them? Do they still have a spot at 177 points, but not giving you CP if they're in their own detachment?
I'll tell you what, them denizens of the internet, they sure know everything.
Well, that's what I've heard. I've heard the same things like, well, you're not getting the CP, so they're not any good. Like, well, if you're playing good guys and you really care about CP, there's a ton of different ways to get it.
Yeah, 180 point Astra Militarum tax. If you're dying to get massive amounts of CP, go get you an Astra Militarum battalion or brigade, and boom, you're good.
But you are going to want, now Val, I mean, that's a very good point, you are going to want some command points because of some of the other things in the decks. Like
so much delicious.
Yeah, I mean, there's of course the new Knight chassis, the Castellan and the Valiant, which is the Super Knight. That's the thing that got previewed at Adepticon during the studio preview. They showed a picture of the Knight that has pretty like tons of guns on it, all the cannons.
Yeah, it almost looks like a shrunk down warlord.
It pretty much is. And the shield breaker missiles are one of the options that you can put on the top. You can only get 4 of them. Or I think it's 4 shield breaker missiles, and the fact that there's a stratagem that lets you fire them at models, including character models, even if they're not the closest target.
Some good sniping.
It's strength 10, D6 damage, -4
I guess this feels like a command point reroll sync, because you're either going to be re-rolling the roll to hit or you're going to be re-rolling the damage roll.
This came up a little bit in the conversation I had with Jeff that you'll hear later on, is that y'all know that I'm not a real big fan of like stratagems that you have to spend command points on and then roll some dice.
Yeah.
But I think the Knight Codex balances it really well. Because the upside's so good.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if there's one like the Death Grip. Now we're jumping around. I know we're gushing. I said what.
Death Grip is exactly what we needed, because it was like, why take the fist?
You mean like we as a populace, or
we
the people needed the Death Grip.
We as a hobby needed the Death Grip. It's just too fun. It's too fun not to have in the game, because it's fun. It's great. It's going to do damage, but more importantly, it's going to create a lot of excitement when that Knight player grabs a hold of something. It's going to be fun to watch.
The Knight Gallant meta will be real, and I will be leading the charge from the sidelines to encourage terrible decisions in list building towards 5 Knight Gallants, so that
is this so you can charge up 20 inches or something?
There's all sorts of neat little stratagem buffs. I don't know what the actual good balance for them are, but yeah, there are definitely things that can get you downfield very quickly, get you to hit twice. There's ways to, and like between warlord traits and relics, there's ways to just get a Knight Gallant up to a ridiculous amount of attacks.
I mean, like 4 Gallants and 3 Armigers with the autocannons or something. I mean,
that's an idea. But I mean, like, they could just be a real swirling massive destruction. I don't know what the right balance is, but no matter how many attacks they have coming into the lines, they just finish it off with a nice soul crushing flourish with that big old fist, and I absolutely love it. I think it's the best. And also, like, if you think of actually, if you're talking to Jeff later, he has a great review, and he talks about how, like, the base strength of the Knight is 8, and you're basically doing a roll off, and the differential is whether or not you get to roll another D3 mortal wounds.
Can I talk about what the rule is, and then we'll jump to that, because I think it's important to talk about it, because it says roll strength, And so you might think that you're supposed to double that. But I don't think that you are, because it says roll the strength characteristic and you're not using the weapon, you're using the strength of the knight in that case. I digress. Let me read what the thing says. Use this stratagem immediately after fighting with an Imperial Knight's model from your army that is equipped with a Thunderstrike Gauntlet, the Paragon Gauntlet, or Freedom's Hand. Resolve an additional attack with that weapon against the enemy unit within 1 inch that consists of a single model. That's very important. It has to be a unit that consists of a single model. So that's a pretty broad thing, but that's also a pretty specific qualifier. If the attack hits, the enemy model suffers D3 mortal wounds instead of the damage and is caught in a death grip. Both players roll off and add their respective model's strength characteristic to the result. So that's why you don't double it. You're using the model's strength characteristic, which is 8, not 16, because the gauntlet would be giving you ×2 strength. But you're using the model's strength. If your opponent result is equal or exceeds yours, the enemy model breaks free and nothing happens. Otherwise, the enemy model suffers an additional D3 mortal wounds and both players roll off again as before. Continue to do this until either the enemy model breaks free or is slain.
I'm crushing the life out of all the Tau.
Well, it's not even my point. I'm just going to regurgitate. But like, if you think of any Eldar character, their strength 3. You're rolling. They have to roll a 6, and you have to roll a 1 for them to get away. And they're working with like 5, 6 wounds maybe at the most. So
well, I mean, if
they're
you
dead.
are killing a Farseer with the death grip, what are you doing?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Listen. If you lived to make it to the Farseer to smush him with the death grip, I kind of feel like that's like victory scream right there. He's like throwing the football at the ground, except instead of a football, it's a Eldar Conehead.
See, I'm thinking like you're killing Wave Serpents, you're killing Pask, you're running up and doing the Loki smash on.
You're getting closer to a straight up roll off though in those scenarios. But yeah, like
sure.
But I mean, even a strength 5 or 6 character, I mean, you have a serious advantage in each roll.
Well, even if you don't win the roll, you're still doing additional D3 mortal wounds.
And the thing to remember, though, is you're paying 1 command point for an additional attack. This is after you fight with the knight. Okay, so you've already done your attacks. So what's great about that is you may clear out and get to that model. You may be able to get to it, or you may just kill everything that you were going to kill there. And then, now there's a target of opportunity. I pay 1 command point, make the additional attack, and squeeze the life out of it. So, and that's where I could see that, like when you're going for some just rando character is, well, I've got the command point, let me burn it and kill him. Otherwise, you're using it to fight something bigger. But I could see it in that situation where if you just killed everything else there is to kill, well, go ahead.
I tell you what, this really invalidates your guys' little jump pack guy that you love so much.
Oh, Banginius?
Oh, yeah. He is done. Bye. Shelf him.
Well, he may be done, but a couple command points later, he's still knocking off like 20 wounds from that night.
Banginius charging this guy could kill him before he swings.
Still getting his head squashed in the knight's fingers.
Look, I'll put Banginius against a 600-point model or whatever. I mean, I feel okay. But
it's hard to argue with the
what you got to do against Banginius is, if he gets a charge off, is you just pretty much auto explode the knight with a different stratagem and kill him with mortal wounds that way. So
boom.
Hey, let me ask a question.
Banginius.
Let me ask just a rules question, just because I don't have my book open to the fight phase. But it says use the stratagem immediately after fighting with an Imperial Knight's model. Can I do my pile in or my consolidate?
I think it's immediately after fight, and then the consolidate is the next step in the fight phase.
Okay, that sounds like more in line with what a sane person would expect. I was just making sure it wasn't like something crazy.
Hey, Ricky, you're the knight expert. You do what you want.
Yeah, it's totally good. I promise.
Yeah, throw your Titan feet in there twice.
No, I mean, there's an order during the fight phase.
Right. Yeah.
So, and this is.
I just want to make sure that we weren't missing something there. All right. It's still good. The Death Grip is amazing. It's super fun, and it reminds me. You know what? I love it, but I miss the old days of throwing the tank and doing the
Yeah.
class marker. One time, one of my favorite moments playing Imperial Knights was picking up a tank, destroying it, and the dude fell out of it, and then I threw the tank on top of him and killed him, and that was a lot of fun.
Now, the Thunderstrike Gauntlet, when attacking with this weapon, you must subtract 1 from the hit roll. If a vehicle or monster is slain by the weapon, pick an enemy unit within 9 inches of the bearer and roll a d6. On a 4+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds, so you still get to throw that guy.
Yep.
But that -1 is important. So this is one of those things. If the Death Grip was 2 command points, I'd be against it. But what you said earlier, Ricky, the fact that it's an additional attack, it's an extra attack. You've already swung your 4 times or whatever. This is another attack that's going to do an immediate additional D3 mortal wounds with an upside up doing more. That's why I'm cool with it. Even though you're hitting on a 4+.
And it
I was going to say,
still.
have you already had your 10 tap dance attacks and then can use the gauntlet just with the strat, or do you have to swing with the gauntlet?
No, it's use this after
It's 12.
fighting. Done.
It's 12
Yeah.
Titanic feet attacks if you did it with it's 3 each one is 3 hit rolls for the Titanic feet.
Well, and
Death-
the
Death
Gallon
Grip.
is up to 5 attacks now, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the Warden. Let me look at the Gallant right now. The Gallant is 5 attacks.
Ooh.
Holler.
Boom.
But yeah, Val, it is. It's resolved an additional attack with that weapon against it. It's you don't have to waste an attack with the gauntlet. You can do all your attacks with the Titanic feet and then do an attack with the gauntlet. And the really fun thing is that still Death Grip still counts as an attack because it says make an additional attack with this weapon. So if you kill a vehicle or monster with it, you can still throw it.
You ring out this alleged Farseer.
Yeah. Well, he's got to be a monster.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's got to be a vehicle. So
Demon
if
Prince.
you use Death Grip on a vehicle or a monster, you can still chuck it.
Gilliman's a monster.
What I was trying to illustrate there is just that, like, a Farseer's got a pretty crazy invuln save, if I'm not mistaken. There are lots of great invuln saves out there. It is an inescapable Death Grip. Like, for low strength anything, they don't get out. If you hit, they're dead.
And there's going to be things that come up too, like with other codexes maybe that have almost kind of like glass cannon type situations, lower strength but tons of attacks or whatever. I think this is going to we're going to see more uses out of this than even we're thinking about right now.
Well written.
I like it, and this is the other thing I'm talking about. Like I think the stratagems in this book have a big enough upside, and I'll say that several times. But the one that we were talking about earlier with the Shieldbreaker missiles is there's a stratagem that allows you to fire it at anywhere, basically anywhere, things even out of line of sight, or irrespective of characters being the closest model or not.
Is that part from the stratagem, or is that just part of the Shieldbreaker?
It's a stratagem. It's the Oathbreaker
Okay.
guidance system. It's 2 command points, and this is where we're starting to get into that fringe range, but it says use this stratagem before choosing a target for a Shieldbreaker missile in your shooting phase. That Shieldbreaker missile can target a unit that is not visible to the bearer and can target a character even if it's not the closest enemy unit.
That's just going to be funny. Oh my gosh, it's going to be funny.
So the Shieldbreaker missile is 48-inch range with a movement of 10-inch on the knight. So, 58-inch threat range. No, if you really got to hit a character, strength 10, neg 4 AP, D6 damage.
I got a general question for the crowd, if I might ask. So, like, one of the things with the knights is just rerolls. Like, there's some strats that let you do it, and maybe some warlord traits, whatever. What are like some Imperium buffing characters that just affect Imperium? Like, obviously, Gilliman would have an impact on these guys,
Yeah,
right?
that's the first one that comes to mind.
The one thing, I think Call has a Imperium thing or two, maybe. Does he? But what I wanted to bring up was what could you kill with the Shieldbreaker missile?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, it's all right. Harker, things that give buffs is that kind of stuff. So like Harker
Yeah.
and or Master of Ordnance who have 4 wounds or whatever. All those Imperial Guard characters that just kind of nestle back there and make that army so much harder to fight. You can zot it with a missile, and each one of those guys you kill with a missile, I think you're saving a knight the next round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or hell, even Gilliman over a couple turns.
Yeah, putting the D6 damage on him.
Yeah, because it's all no invuln, so his 3-up isn't helping him. Shield captains. They got what, 6 wounds?
That's important. I didn't mention that, but I'm glad you brought it up. As that each Shieldbreaker missile can only be fired once per battle, and a model can only fire one each turn. Invulnerable saving throws cannot be made against wounds caused by this weapon.
Yeah, that's the part that makes the shield captains quiver.
I mean, it's streaky. It's D6 damage, which,
it could be 6 damage, but it could be 1 damage.
The math on a las cannon, right, because it's only -3 save, is that a las cannon does, average of, 2 wounds? This thing is -4 save, and so the average is going to go up of the wounds. So, I mean, you're going to be doing 3-4 wounds a shot with this thing.
3.5 roughly.
And not that you have any command points left after you've used 3 stratagems we've just talked about. But you might want to use it for rerolling the damage.
Make it count.
You'll have a few from your obligatory guard platoon. I figure you buy your 40k rulebook, and if you're playing Imperium, the next thing you buy is a couple infantry squads and mortars.
Yeah. I think that's strong.
I mean, that's assuming that you're going for the knight detachment. I mean, if you're just plugging one in as an ally, you're not spending a whole lot of points. You still have plenty of stuff to play with for the plethora of competitive armies that are still out there on the Imperium side.
No, the knight points did go down. A fair amount, if you ask me, but they're still pointed in a way that I think you're going to have them struggle in some of the missions that we see out there.
Yeah, they're a little awkward in some cases as you scale in the I want to go deeper into the knight thing. It makes it a little bit stranger. You might find yourself with a 1975 list or something.
Well, we were joking around about the knights, the knight gallant. You'd be able to run a fleet of those.
It's no joke.
Okay, I'm sorry. We were
serious
articulating the fact that gallants can be ran en masse, and because that the base knight chassis, that original knight chassis is 285 points plus weapons, and so I think that the gallant on that chassis is going to be kind of the cheapest version, because it doesn't have a battle cannon, which is 100 points, or a Gatling cannon, which is 75 points. And I believe the Gatling cannon came down 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
So Gallant, I think you're rocking around the 350 range, somewhere around
and that's
there.
because you're taking a chainsword and a gauntlet.
Yep.
So the chainsword,
and a stubber or like a melta, if you want to be fancy.
The chainsword is 30 points, and the gauntlet is 35 points. So you're looking at around the 350 range for a gallant.
That's not bad though, really, if you break it down.
So I don't know what quick math of 350 times 4 is. Let me just add up what the thing is. That's probably better instead of guessing.
1,400 pounds. They're a pretty even number there.
Look, we record.
So you can get 5 into 1750 and still have your Imperial Guard brigade, or sorry, a battalion. Just saying.
Okay, but you got to add in the stubber, so it's 350 plus the stubber, so 350.
Oh, we can't do it now. Can't do it now.
Plus 4. All right. That's why I wanted to add it up. Right? So 4 gallons
1770
is 1416 plus the 100. How many armigers can I get in there with the autocannons?
174 each. So what does that leave? 3.
That's when I'm 522 plus 1416. We're getting close to 2K.
5 plus battalion.
1938.
Party.
So you can add in an auxiliary primaris psyker.
Well, guys and gallants, I feel like that is Val's best don't bring this list.
Hey, I presaged the Triple Storm Surge list on this very podcast, ladies and gentlemen, which did incredibly mediocrely all over the London GT.
But think about how much more effective. I mean, like knight, we know the limitations of knights. Knights now in a game where las guns can wound these guys, and I get it. It's remote, but it always happens. We play the game where the improbable is probable.
What do they call the really big las gun? Volcano cannon? Is that what that's called?
You're talking about the hot shot las guns or whatever?
The Shadow Sword version?
Yeah, that's the Shadow Sword version. I think that's what they're afraid of. Yeah.
People, I see at least 3 of those at every tournament I go to. So it's only going to increase now that knights have their codex. Don't get me wrong. I love knights more than anybody else out there. I love knights, but I think it's a fool's errand to try to run a knight army in a competitive setting. I don't think
missions have a lot to do with it too. And but where I was going with that is yes, they're going to struggle in the competitive missions as we know them right now, I believe. But the models are so dang cool, you're going to see them.
Oh, I've already sold out of every pre-order that everything that I ordered for my store has sold already, and I'm not even going to have anything on the shelves at release. So GW is happy. All right, they sold. The modeling, the hobby aspect of the Dominus class knight is fantastic. As a retailer, I'm over the moon. As a knight player, why can a last gun kill me?
Oh, come on.
It's so annoying. But it's I think one of the big things, and I know there is is it a relic, I think, that lets it count as like 10 models or something?
That's the OPSEC one, yeah.
For scoring?
Yeah, was it a relic or was it a warlord trade? It was one of the two.
I was thinking it was a relic, but something like that is what's going to help knights, because that's where it's always a kick in the teeth is when an Imperial Knight gets an objective taken away from him by like 2 guardsmen or something, So
I think Knights immediately go back to what they were before, which is kind of an evil gatekeeper list, which is kind of a binary scenario. So if they're going up against a lot of Eldar builds, anything that's Dark Reaper heavy, if they're going up against the 3 Shadow Swords, the good night. And they don't get first turn, especially, good night. They're toast.
With the low model count.
Against a ton of armies in the current meta, you're gonna rock some houses, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, I'm putting them on the table. It's going to be fun.
With a low
Either
model
way,
count,
it'll be a quick game.
Remember, like if you build your army to deploy first, you kind of go first. 63% of the time? Look, don't trust the math. It's like more than 50.
Feels good. Feels good.
Yeah.
And Knights are getting the +1. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of Tesseract vaults, I mean, no one's dropping inferior drops in the Knights probably in most cases.
Even Tesseract vaults, you're looking at 3 plus a Deceiver, 4, and then a couple units of Scarabs. So that's 6. So if you just stay under 6 with your Knights, then you'll always get the +1.
Well, here's kind of the thing that just, going along with what Ricky's saying, that an all Knights list isn't competitive, it's just the game right now, and missions do play a part of this. Cheap infantry just do everything. Infantry just do anything, and the more you have, the more likely you are to win, even if they're not really of a high caliber in terms of what each model can do. Now, that said, Ricky, I want an honest answer. Are you ready for this question?
I don't know, but let's risk it.
Have any of your knights actually died to a lasgun?
Not dying, but they have gotten whittled down to the point where they weren't super effective. Let me tell you this though, and this isn't knights, but I put my warlord on the table against about 6,000 points of just Primaris Marines, infantry, and some Grey Knights, and it got its butt handed to it because just the overwhelming firepower that 6,000 points of small arms fire can put out. I lost a Warlord Titan. So, yes, I think that
you
overwhelming
need to play
firepower.
30k, Ricky. Play 30k with that thing. You'll feel much better.
I know. But what I'm saying is the way the rules interaction works with vehicles now and large models especially, I think overall large models are more of a liability than they are an asset.
Every time you give away a wound, it's a big gouge. And that's it. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back with a segment from Val.
All right.
Then, Val, you want to tee up the segment?
Yeah, actually, it's been one I've been trying to put together for a long time. I bring on Paul McKelvey, and we talk about the evolution and origins of the Best Coast Pairings app, and also what they've been working on and some of the new features they're rolling out.
That'd be fun. Right after that, we'll do a segment, or I'll do a segment with Jeff Robinson, and then this is going to be a jam-packed episode. It's going to be a long episode, so if you see it, listen to it in chunks or whatever. Hope you enjoy it. And then we'll be coming back after those 2 segments with these guys talking about knights.
Sounds like a great value.
That hurt my ears.
Oh, I'm going to see you guys in a minute.
FTN is brought to you by Bell of Lost Souls. Check out www.bols.org for the best daily hobby articles on the web.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a guest interview. I am Val Heffelfinger here on Forge the Narrative. Pretty exciting for me. I'm joined with an even more exciting person, co-founder, semi-proprietor, innovator, Paul McKelvey from Best Coast Pairings. Hello, Paul.
How's it going, everybody?
Everybody says it's going even better now that you're here.
Well, it's great to be here.
So, Paul, I've been actually after you guys to try and speak to somebody out there about one of my 3 most essential apps for gaming is the Best Coast Pairings app, probably our friends at Battlescribe, and the Assault Dice app. I'd say that would be my holster of apps for gaming.
Your trifecta, if you will?
Yeah, that's right. I kind of keep them all on their own screen so that people don't necessarily know what I'm up to when I'm just sort of sitting around. But it's one of those 3 things, just rolling dice or checking out the results on BCP. Yeah, I was just really happy to have you on and maybe have a chance here to talk with you and the audience about what Best Coast Pairings is and where it came from. So how did you guys get it started?
Well, it all started, I was asked to run my first tournament, which I had little no experience doing beforehand. I'd never run a tournament, and so I just kind of happened to mention to one of my my competitive team members, Garrett. I said, "Hey, guys, they're asking me to run this tournament. I don't know how to do it." And Garrett pops up and goes, "Hey, I can make an app for that." So sure enough, a couple weeks later, he cranked out this app, and I ran it for the tournament for the first time, and it worked perfectly okay for what we were trying to do. And him and Casey kind of took it and ran with it and kept developing it. And they contacted FLG and explained what they were trying to do for Las Vegas Open. And at that point, Garrett had already said that he was trying to figure out a way to monetize it, and appreciated that I'd helped him to kind of beta test it and get it going. And then I was looking into it, trying to figure out what we could do to actually make it make sense to make it into a business. And
let's back it up like one half tiny step here. So you basically have accomplished, you've run like a small store tournament, like 15 guys, and then immediately you think to yourselves, let's run the largest 40k tournament that exists with it.
That's basically that's kind of the progress it took, to be honest. Yeah,
I remember when it happened. It was Reese and Frankie were delighted to have that kind of tech. So they were hyping it up on their show, and so I was pretty curious to see this thing, because they were talking it up every opportunity they had, and so I was really curious to see how it all went down. So what was that first? Was that a bit of a nerve-wracking experience for you guys? If that was sort of your first real test?
That was really the first real test of it. Yeah, Garrett was. I remember Garrett panicking on the first day of LVO that servers might explode the first time out, and no, sure enough, it worked just fine.
That's awesome. So, the next 2 years, I've been able to be down there and see it in action. You guys have the command post set up at the front. It's like the group that launched the Saturn rockets, all kind of sweating, looking down at your iPads, making sure it all holds together. Because there's a lot, like, how many people, or like how many like page views are you guys getting at something like an LVO?
An insane amount. Every time we have a big event, that number goes higher and higher. But I mean, right now we're averaging across a weekend about 15,000 page views or so.
That's pretty cool. And that's not just people at the event, but also people following it from
yeah. If you take a step back and look at how many for every one person we have at an event, we average 3 people looking at the event.
That's cool. That was actually one of the things that kind of made me go aha about sort of I don't want to use the word like magic, but I guess the different quality that having an app like this brings to an event. Because even if, like, I ran a small, store RTT, just like your humble beginnings, just this last weekend, I used BCP. It's just kind of cool that, you're creating this tournament, but you're also sharing, the results of that tournament. If you take advantage of the features of the app, the lists of that tournament with the broader community, even just really passively, but like people can come and like look in on your tiny little tournament.
Yep.
So that's was that always sort of one of the philosophies behind it, like the ability to look in and peer in and see what's going on?
Yeah, that's from literally the first couple times we had events on it, we saw there was big demand for people wanting to see what was going on with it, and that's kind of where we figured out is that people wanted to see what was happening. We thought that historical data would be a little more, people would want to dig into it more. But still, we find that people really want to see what is going on. Even if they're not necessarily looking at the lists, they want to see who's winning and what armies are winning, I think is what's important to people.
And that, I mean, you sort of combine BCP with the ITC rankings, and you have, suddenly you have have people, suddenly you can have named players,
Mm-hmm.
and you can watch, the big names, you hear they're out, listening to a podcast, you might know a GT's coming up, and you can watch, sort of your favorite players playing. So you get this sort of actual player-based narrative that can now happen, which is super neat. And it doesn't have to be the biggest tournaments. It can range from RTTs all the way up to the biggest shows. It's super cool in my books.
The tagline that I've taken to describing it is, it's a digital solution for analog games. And that's really what that's kind of where we've taken it now, is we're trying to be that solution for not just, the games we love, but all the games. We want to make sure we can provide the same skill set and that we've applied to the Games Workshop games. We want to apply to everything now, because it's not Games Workshop games needed. It's all the games we go into the card shops and game shops to play. They all need this.
Yeah. So doubling back, so what are some of the functions, what's some of the functionality that, you guys kind of came out of the gates with, and how has that evolved, in the early going, in that first year or two?
Oh, wow. Well, our official launch, so we used it at LVO, but really our official launch was at Broadside Bash. And so around, it was April 20th of 2016 was when we officially published the App Store and everything. And at that point, it was just the tournament organizer. I mean, it was just a generic score field. I think we were only targeting 40k events at that point, and so we did have scoring built for the 40k mission sets at that point.
And is that, and sorry to interrupt, but are you all 40k nerds, or is there some guy like, you guys are weird, but I'm into this app thing? Are you guys all sort of invested in that game to start with?
Exactly. Yep, we're all 40k players to start with. That's how it's. With the exception of one of us, there's 4 of us that are on the team. We're all part of the Left Coast Corsairs 40k team.
Yeah.
So Garrett, Casey, and myself are Corsairs, and then Ben is a Mercy Killer. But that's how we kind of. I mean, we actually love the game and want these tools for the game we play.
Yeah, Ben sounds like a mean person. He's a Mercy Killer. I mean, that's a little intense. Although I guess you guys are pirates.
Oh yeah, we're definitely pirates.
Okay, cool. So it comes from a place of wanting to act legitimately just wanting to have this tool available for events that you go to, and so out of the gate, it's just that tournament organizer app. And then how was there always an end game, or did you just sort of react to community feedback, what the demand was, or have you sort of had a laid out plan and progression for how you add features over time?
Really, we had a plan. We did respond as much as possible to the community, but we've known what we had to build and how we had to build it. So we knew the player app was the next step to that, and so we rolled that out in January of 2017. But really, the next step past the initial tournament organizer was online registration, which was also did ticket sales. Kind of the idea was to try and get it in, make it easier for people to not only just run events, but to sign people up for events. And we realized right away that we had to have that as a feature that was needed, because you go to something like Fate Open, and it's cool to have 3 iPads there to sign people into, but it still takes, 45 minutes to get through 180 people.
Sure.
So we knew we had to have it online. And then the next step to that was the player app, which lets people not just wait in line to sign in, but now they don't have to wait in line to score. And so they can score remotely. And that, of course, was also the start of being able to do lists through the app, too. And then it was June of that following year is where we launched the subscription service, where you can go back and view the historical data.
Paul, what number subscriber am I?
I really don't know.
I think I'm in I gotta be somewhere in that first dozen.
Probably.
I feel like I was the first person to respond on Frontline Gaming to the post.
I know who the first subscriber was. I really don't know who. It wasn't even me. The first subscriber wasn't even me. It was.
I hope you give yourself a free peek at the historical data every now and again.
I didn't at first.
That's.
No, I truthfully I try to keep stuff fair and honest, and I knew that it was a powerful tool, and so as a player and someone who was still competing in the ITC and trying to win it, I didn't ever go back through and dig into data until everyone else could.
Oh, that's cool.
I tried to make sure that I didn't, because the last thing we want to do is compromise our integrity on the app.
Sure.
We don't want everyone to ever think that we're using the ability to manipulate pairings or anything like that. So I just made sure that I didn't have access to that stuff. Because, I mean, I'm not a developer. I'm not the one. I get to be the pretty face and talk to people. But really, you see, Casey, Garrett, and Ben are the ones who get to go through and see all that stuff. And Garrett had moved on to Age of Sigmar at that point, and Casey was kind of focusing only on the app at that point. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get that player app going and kind of reach nirvana, right? You guys just kick up your heels and just watch the dollars roll in?
No, I wish it was that easy. No, it's. I think a lot of people don't realize that the way that Apple and Google keep their business going is for apps that you pay for or apps that you have subscriptions for. They take a pretty mean chunk of it, and then here in the U.S. we have a little thing called taxes. So we see just about half of each of those subscriptions that roll in there. No, we knew that even with 40k and Age of Sigmar being strong on us, we needed to go towards other game systems. And we needed to provide the same tools we were doing for those two game systems to everybody. And so we started expanding to include other game systems and talking to other podcasts and things like that to try and get into the other sides of the gaming community.
Whoa. Other like there's non-40k podcasts you can listen to?
Not as many, but yeah.
Okay. I thought it'd be a bit of a niche market, but
no,
I mean, if you guys are that desperate, I mean, you can go out to non-40k podcasts. We get it.
Yeah.
Here's a few things. Like I just want to make sure that anyone who's listening to this, because I'm like a Best Coast Pairings fanboy for a lot of the reasons that we've already touched on, but mostly because I think one of the coolest things about this game is we're two guys talking into microphones that other people are going to listen to about a cool miniatures game, and that Best Coast Pairings kind of, just like podcasts, opens up that world, right? It makes it kind of a more of a global community, makes that meta much bigger, because you can see what the people are doing in San Antonio or Toronto or over in Southport, in the UK, wherever you happen to be, like that meta now just got much tighter, much smaller, just depending on where people are playing. So I love Best Coast Pairings. It also makes the TO's job a lot easier, and I think on the back end provides us with information we've never had ever before. I mean, I'd love for you guys to start opening up some of that data again, so that we can see trends in the games and all that kind of stuff. So I just think BCP is one of the coolest things, and I just want to, because I think a lot of people think that, or maybe not, but this is my impression, is that because you guys sort of came out with the LVO, that BCP and the ITC are kind of interlinked. And I know we'll touch on the other systems that you guys support now too, but just from a 40k perspective, what types of events can you run through the Best Coast Pairings app?
As of right now, there is nothing that can't run outside of a team tournament for 40.
That's cool.
I mean,
so you can do battle points in Best Coast Pairings?
Battle points. You can do soft scores. You can do paint scores. I mean, you can do even standalone paint scores. I mean, we've added the functionality to do everything except for team tournaments, and we're looking to make sure we can support that by the ATC this year.
Well, that is amazing. First and foremost, love to see team events support, because it's my favorite format. But let me get this straight. You guys have soft scores. You can do battle points, and I still need an iPad to use BCP these days.
So you can run an event using Android now. That's the other thing, we've rolled on Android now. But Android is still in open beta.
Okay.
We have a huge update we're about to push that will add a lot more functionality to Android. But I mean, really, right now, if you're creating an event, you want to create the event on iPad, unless if you're doing just standard normal play, you can do it on Android just fine. But you can run the event with Android, no problem at all.
That's awesome. So I was just sort of definitely leading you there, because I really want the folks at home to know that, if you're not down with sharing for whatever reason, down with sharing your scores with ITC rankings or what have you, if you don't want to use ITC format, if you think Reese is leading a dark cabal from an evil triad to conspire against Tau, that's cool. Best Coast Pairings has nothing to do with any of that, and it can make your tournament going experience so much better for both your players and for the tournament organizers themselves.
Well, that's our goal, is to make the TO's life easy. So stuff for players, but really at the end of the day, the original intent, the core value we have is to make it so we ideally want to see what we saw the first time we were at Bay Open since our grand launch was Reese and Frankie walking around being TOs and not worrying about paperwork and signing people in or anything like that. We want the TO to be a judge and or even play in their game and take all that extra nonsense off their plate so they can actually do what they need to do to make the rest of the event run. Because anyone who's run an event, I mean, you've run events too. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
I've only ever done it with BCP. I played the ringer at the RTT I ran, so it seems pretty easy to me. You know, I feel like TOs are going to become like I'm going to date myself here, but like the Maytag repairman. You know, he's always sleepy. You know, because he doesn't have anything to do because Maytag is such a reliable machine. That's what BCP is. It's the Maytag. Okay, cool. I think that's all well and good. So that was my kick there, and I think also just for players, like if your TO isn't using it and you want to participate, if you do want to participate in the ITC, if you want to be able to, you know, see what your pairings are while you're out at lunch, you know, even if it's across the street, suggest you guys can advocate out there to, you know, bring this kind of an app in, because TOs are going to do what their players want. Like they're going to respond to demands, and if it's going to make your life better as a player and their life easier as a TO, that's a pretty easy win-win.
Kind of segue off of that. If you're playing in the ITC is an awesome competitive circuit. We actually just launched BCP Rankings, which is designed to be rankings for every game system, not just 40k and Age of Sigmar and Shadespire, but we want to be able to provide a uniform platform across every game system that allows everyone to compete for not just saying that you're the best 40k player or best Magic player, but say you're the best gamer.
Let's dive into that. So what game systems have you now rolled out support of?
Okay, so we have X-Wing, we have Destiny, we have Legend of the Five Rings, we have Game of Thrones, we have Kings of War, Bolt Action, Legion, which is another big one, Age of Sigmar, 40k, 30k, Shadespire. Did I already say Magic?
No, you didn't say Magic. Really?
Oh gosh, we're up to 20 now, so I'm losing.
Well, that's okay. Clearly, there's a good chance if it's a popular game, it's covered there. Are you working with any of these? You know, have you been able to make inroads with any of the actual, you know, designers, manufacturers of these game systems? Like, are you partnering up anywhere, or are you just sort of out there just trying to provide this as best you can?
We're trying to provide it best we can. There may or may not be conversations that we've had with publishers. As of right now, we just our main target is to just provide the functionality for any game system that someone wants to have in the system.
Fantastic.
So even if you're someone who wants to say have a Munchkin, the card game system loaded in, we want to add it in. Anything to make your life easier for any game system you're going to run.
Yeah, because I suspect, I mean, again, just like there's other 40k podcasts, apparently, I mean, non-40k podcasts out there, apparently, I suppose there's other games people enjoy playing.
Yeah, there's a big card game that people want to play, and it's kind of magical, and we're trying really hard to make inroads on that one too.
Well, that's fantastic, because yeah, there might be a few people who'd be interested in that. Although, I mean, it is an interesting thing to try and break into. 40k didn't really have a system. Certainly nothing that there's never been any real stable rankings, and yet in a lot of those other games, that is one of the core elements of that. And even looking at the 40k ranks on the Best Coast, what is it? What's the website?
BCPRankings.com.
BCPRankings.com. Now, those aren't the ITC rankings for the 40k. That's just all events that are run through the app, yeah?
Yeah, so BCP Rankings it's entirely separate from the ITC. And again, don't want to take away from the ITC in any way, because it's meant to be, where I look at as the ITC as a competitive circuit, BCP Rankings is more to be like the leaderboard at an arcade. Just try to name up on there. We're not going to be, we're not doing manual corrections or anything like that for it like we do for the ITC. It's going to be just kind of a passive look where you score, because our target audience is now going more towards the TOs and targeting towards retailers, and having retailers have the ability to have rankings for their store. So you'll be able to say, kind of like that Pokemon Go type strategy. I'm not just the best 40k player at this store. I'm also the best Magic player, and because I'm also play Bolt Action, my combined scores say I'm the best gamer at this store.
So you're mentioning like working with store owners. Do you have anything that you guys have rolled out recently to target them specifically, or just trying to get them to use the app more?
Well, definitely trying to get them to use the app more, because it's beneficial to everyone. But our biggest project we've been working on really since November is the event suite, which is designed to make it so retailers have all the tools they need to provide for all the games they have and all the events they have, not even just gaming events, but so they can have a web page, they can see their rankings for their store, they can actually run leagues in their store. So anyone who's used to playing a month-over-month or week-over-week league. No more whiteboards in the store. It will track everything for them. They can add pictures and stuff to it for that. Gives them the ability to assign TOs to the store so the TOs can make events on the calendar for the store, and helps them a little bit with the processing rate for online sales so they can do all their registration and ticketing online, and it's just, again, making all the events run smoother.
That's pretty cool. I can't argue with that. All right. Well, I think that's all fascinating. What's next? Do you have any teasers for what you're most excited for that might be rolling out with BCP, stuff that we can look forward to? Maybe for the 40K community that happens to be listening right now?
Yeah. Our next big thing after we get a little bit more going with the event suite and getting stores set up is to focus on the player app a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Have a lot of ideas on how to improve that and make it better, such as things like push notifications when rounds go live, things like built-in timers, full player profiles so you can actually track your stuff. I mean, we've developed this stuff a while back. It's just a matter of implementation. Basically, I want to make it so that you can, when I walk to the table to play you, I can look at our player profiles and based on your previous history, know that when you're playing this army and I'm playing this army, here's my win percentage against you.
Player profiles, I really think, are that sort of that next hop up. Even just something that, like having an avatar on there.
Yep.
I could have my Pudge Heffelfinger Facebook picture. That would be another level. And to have actually customized stats to be able to see, what their, what's your lifetime record, That's all stuff that you guys have that exists. And I think that would add so much more excitement around it and get more people like demanding, I want to use this app. I want to get my Xbox Live high score,
Yep. As of right now, we have a list of 220 achievements because you said Xbox. We want to make achievements in it. So things like beat your nemesis. So someone who you've lost to 3 times at a tournament, you beat them, you get a badge, you crush your nemesis. Badge when you become someone's nemesis. Beating for each different army you can beat. Playing in different locations. I mean, I think we're up to like 220 achievements we had that as soon as we start to get that rolled out, that'll be part of the player app too. I mean, we got a lot of stuff we can do with the player app, but it was just, again, trying to prioritize where we want it to go.
Oh, for sure. As far as getting people who want to sort of interact with the platform, I don't know, there's a lot, I've said in a couple other shows that, you hear people reacting against big prizes in 40K, because we're pretty small potatoes, and so it's only recently that, like in Magic, I'm sure the top prizes are probably pretty impressive in a lot of cases. But in 40K, heck, what was it, $4,000 for the ITC winner? Yep. That was a big deal. And so, is money tainting 40K and all this stuff? And I honestly think people play harder for the cool trophy. They play harder for the achievement unlock. That Xbox Live Arcade thing worked, right? It really worked, and it will help motivate people to not only come out for 40K, but other game systems too. If just going out for your Thursday night game night actually helps you progress or get another badge or whatever, and that'll drive people to really demand and want to use the app. So kudos to you guys. I think that would be a great next thing to do.
One of the ones that gets me all excited is you have not just the player side, but you also have the TO side.
Yeah.
Not just for being a TO. It's kind of a thankless job sometimes. So when you're getting rewards like, hey, here's your badge for running an event with 30 plus people, here's your badge for running an event that had a wait list of 10 people long, or, sold out, or running your third event in a different location. It's just, there's lots of badges we can do for TOs also, which is rewarding the people who are putting in the hard work to make these events that we all love fly.
Very cool. I'm really excited for the player app now, Paul. So that better not be vaporware.
Well, I'll throw one other piece we have. This one will probably be coming out pretty quick because it's just a matter of us adding it in there. You'll be able to add pictures from the event to the event too. So
cool.
What it kind of goes along with the hobby track and everything like that, which is of course getting points for not just playing but also hobbying in the events too. You'll be able to take those pictures and have them. We'll have a kind of catch-all for all the pictures at the event. So you'll be able to add pictures of all those armies, because it's one of the things that kind of drives me bananas is when I go to an event and I'll see on a website all the pictures of the event, but I can't tell whose army it was or where it went to. Now we'll be able to assign the pictures to the players and have, these are the armies that were at this event, or these are the pictures that happened at this event, or here's the trophies at this event. Because like you said, the check is nice for ITC, but trophies are where it's at for 40K. I can get the money if I need to. I can't get those trophies at Broadside Bash going down there every year for.
And it's Broadside Bash.
Yeah, I want those skull trophies with the octopus wrapped around it, drenched in coins. That's
or like the Forge World one with the chainsword. I don't know if you got a best in faction at LVO or not. You might have actually. Do you have the Forge World chainsword one?
No.
Oh man, that's a unicorn to me. I'd love to get those. It actually kind of sounds like BCP could almost transition to almost like a social media platform is kind of where that player app could go to.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you know what? It's one of the things I'm really excited about is that, I mean, there's so much that we can talk about on it, but the events list, to this day, I think we have the most extensive events list of hobbying and gaming events anywhere on the internet. And that's actually our most trafficked page right now by a long shot.
Yeah, and it's just a list. Like, I mean, yeah, it'd be great if I could look at a map.
That's someone working on that. It just hasn't finished yet. But yeah, it'll be sortable by game system, the area around you.
Yeah, it's wild. Like looking at ETC, I was trying to maybe scout a little bit, see what some of the scenes were in around Europe and even in the UK. I took BCP and what the ITC events list does for granted. Like to find an event in the UK, you kind of have to follow the shop or the organizer that's doing it. And there's a couple like dusty old forums that some people still post to, but there's no hub. I think like the fact that Tournament 40k is really blowing up, certainly around here, and measurably so. I'm sure if we did some year-over-year examination of the data, I think you could make an argument that BCP drives that, right? Like by just making events so much more visible. Like people will know that you're throwing an RTT and they might drive in to do it. So before I let you go, one quick thought. Tau, good or bad in a competitive gaming sense?
I'm having a really tough time post FAQ.
Really?
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of March Across the Board Hammer. It's been I've never been a big fan of using 3 Riptides or trying to just spam a single unit, and it's made it really tough for me in the post FAQ role.
You just gotta put on your change management pants and just try and grind through it.
Yeah.
Perhaps the solution is 200 Fire Warriors.
Yeah. The sad part is I have that and another 180 crude ore.
Dude, if you've got 200 Fire Warriors, because I was really surprised in some of the recent tournaments that no one has gone like insane Fire Warrior heavy. And I mentioned the Assault Dice app earlier. I would recommend it if you actually are crazy enough to try this. But like, what's the most amount of Fire Warriors you've put on the table yet?
30 right now.
30. I mean, the well is a bit deeper than 30.
I'm a true Tau lover at heart, so that's why I have enough to. I'm sitting here looking at my 6 reporters right now.
Oh, I love Remora drones if they were half as expensive.
Oh yeah, they're just a little. They're sitting right next to my 9 broadsides, the 9 missile sides, and then I've got my rail sides back there somewhere too. But I mean, I have enough to basically fill out every force org in the game, I think.
Right. Well, so this is your marching orders. In exchange for your time here, I need some in real world battle reports back about running as many Fire Warriors as you possibly can, because it might be something.
I'd probably go with Breachers, to be honest, but
nah. Come on, Breachers.
Hey,
it's all about the Fire Warriors. Yeah, -2, sure. Or 1 million shots.
Yeah, that works too.
Okay. Any final thoughts for us before I let you off the line? I know I've taken up some of your time here, so.
Encourage everyone to, if you haven't run an event before, be the guy to step up and give your local store a shot and try and run an event. We try and make it as easy as possible and have a pretty comprehensive FAQ on it. And if you haven't already, send your friends and everyone to do the same for their games. One thing about gamers is we don't all just play one game. We usually play a couple. So tell your friends to check out BCP for all their other games.
Right on. And I encourage them as well, because BCP rocks. And so do you, Paul. Thank you for coming on today.
Really enjoyed being here.
Have a good night.
You too.
You're listening to Forge the Narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to a segment of Forge Narrative. My name is Paul, your host. I'm joined by Jeff Robinson.
Hey Paul, thanks for having me, man.
Jeff, man, are you actually back home now? Are you on the West Coast?
I am. I got home last night from a gig, and then tomorrow I leave for LA for another gig.
Man, jet setting. But that's the life, right? How awesome.
It is, but I think this June, for whatever reason, just got crazy.
Well, I mean, look, I know work is work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but I know you stay busy.
Yeah, I do.
Well, you were hot off a win at the London Grand Tournament Invitational.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know that tournament seems to be kind of plagued by some things, that everyone knows about at this point. We're a little bit after the fact now, so no reason to go over that. But you still played a bunch of games. You played really well and walked away with the trophy.
Yeah, thank you. You always, as an American especially, I think you hear a lot about the ETC and I think whether by product of their own horn being tooted or maybe it's deserved. You hear a lot about the European players being very, very good at this game. So it was kind of cool to go over there and get my first experience with that and come away with some success as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, I mean, there are people that are good at 40K all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And with the focus that we have a competitive slant. So we talk about the tournaments, and so we talk about what does win. And, but I'd like to talk to you about how to win. I mean, because you were playing, now again, I know that you travel a bit in time zones. You may be a little bit, have some tips on how to acclimate yourself to the time zone to perform at your best. And I mean, this game, it's a game, right? But when you're playing for 8 hours a day on what are probably not the most padded floors or eating convention hotel room food or what, I mean, there's all these reasons to why you couldn't do well, but yet you consistently do all right. And I'd like to talk about maybe that method a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want me just to jump into it? Do you have any questions or?
Go for it. I mean, obviously everyone, we all have our routines and stuff, but I just imagine that you have one. And I thought,
so there's a few things. So, traveling for Warhammer for first and foremost, kind of just as a mindset thing, I take it really serious. There's a lot of people that are like, they're there to socialize, they're to get smashed, play some Warhammer. That's fine. Then there's people that can play really well under those conditions, like a Nick Nanavati, who, not so much as much lately, but before has won like 4 Adepticons while blackout drunk. That's not for everyone.
Get in the zone, man. Sometimes the dice just talk to you at that point in time.
I suppose, yeah, for him in particular. But for me, I take it really serious. So one of the first things I would always say, and this might seem pretty basic, but it's actually incredibly important. There's different missions everywhere. So if you go to Nova, they play differently. If you're playing predominantly ITC, on the West Coast, it's different. Middle of the United States plays different from everywhere else. And then, of course, Europe is more ETC oriented. So a lot of their missions, if it's not straight up ETC, then it's closer to that. So Maelstrom, book missions, that kind of stuff. Do not travel to a tournament and be like, well, I read the mission or I glanced over it. Get a game 2, 3, or preferably like 5 in just to get your mind wrapped around how you're going to play that mission. And I've been on both sides of this. I've traveled and been like, how different can it be? And then lose because I picked a bad tertiary or something like that, or I didn't understand quite progressive versus endgame and that kind of thing. And, it sucks in the moment, but it really sucks in retrospect when you look back and you're like, I could have done better. One good example of that is like, everybody knows Frankie from Frontline Gaming. He went over to a Nova and actually had one of his best tournaments ever. He lost to Nick Nanavati, but it was a really close game. He beat Aaron Along in a really close game, had this amazing run, but ended up coming up short because he picked really poor tertiary objectives for what his army could do because he had no experience with what it should have been.
Just what looked good, what sounded like it was attainable, right. And then you realize you're a half step behind.
Exactly. I mean, he was playing a Battle Company. This is 7th edition, but he took a couple. I can't remember the exact example, but something like Mark for Death or whatever. And then the Battle Company just couldn't get there and do it. So little things like that. He still had a good time, but that kind of thing can run amok. And then the really basic, honest answer is too.
Can I comment on that for a second?
Yeah, please do.
I think that's important because as you familiarize yourself, you're using less brain power when it comes time to do that. So if you're in a stressful situation, let's say the nerves are getting to you in round 5 and you're 4-0, and you're not having to burn any of those precious mental resources making that decision because you already have something to base it off of.
Yep.
So go ahead.
Exactly.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, kind of continuing on the theme of having some sort of a happiness contract with yourself. If winning is not the big priority, just having fun and doing well, then other little things that are important too are packing an army that travels well. Traveling is really hard on the army, but if you're really worried about any of them breaking or, not traveling well and that adds stress to it, that can really bum you out. And I've seen people bow out of tournaments earlier on because they're just they lost a game but are also really stressed about their army and then they're just not having a good time. So be kind of conscientious of that as well. And then for me, this is the mega try hard part, but I'm not afraid to admit this because anyone that knows me knows this. I hydrate, I sleep well, and I don't party until I'm out of the tournament. Which is
oh, so lame.
I know. And maybe in 10 years when I'm more old man Papa Jeff, this will go away. But for right now, I don't play well when kind of going to what you were saying, if there's other mental latencies and taxation occurring, that's when stuff gets slipped and you start to like, well, I'm kind of behind, so I guess I have to all in here. And that's like not the case at all, but you kind of thought it was because you're in this bad condition. So be pretty smart about that.
Well, having a routine, like I do the same thing. I shouldn't say I don't do the same thing. I don't drink as much. I do drink some. Like in the team tournaments, my teammates make sure that I don't drink before a certain time of the day.
Oh, wow.
But my routine, seriously though, is like protein bars and energy drinks. That's my normal thing in the mornings. I'm gonna make sure that I've got some internal. I mean, I don't have a full breakfast, but I do what my normal daily routine is. So I mean that's how I function.
It works too. Get yourself in a routine, feel comfortable, even when you're abroad and you're naturally not going to be as comfortable. If you can kind of find yourself doing a lot of stuff that you like to do, it makes you feel good, then you're going to be in a better spot. And I would say kind of lastly, under the umbrella of just like generic things to do. It's weird because I think for a lot of people are gonna be like, no, Jeff, this is not advice, but for a lot of people, this is something they need to hear. Have confidence and be really honest with yourself too. I've seen a lot of people go to the Las Vegas Open. They're taking a weekend off of work and they're spending a lot of money. They get there and some guy's like, no, this is what it is. And they're like, I don't think so. And they're like, it is what it is. Don't make me call a judge. Let's just move on. And then they had this really bad feeling, and later they come to find out that had they, been a little bit more thorough and checked with that, or had a much more better exchange, a friendlier exchange with the guy, then they would have found out that that's not how strong that was or how it works. But then that's how they lost. When you travel, it's different from just getting in your car and driving to a local RTT. Because if something like that happens there, who gives a for the most part, right? Like, it doesn't matter. There's nothing on the line. It's fine. It happens.
You spent your $10 entry fee. You were going to win half a Land Raider. It's fine.
Right. Or you don't. You lost because of something like this, and that kind of sucks, but you forget about it in a day. But when it's one of these big tournaments and it's something that you traveled for and it's a huge investment from your time, money, and, everything, do not let a moment go. It doesn't mean you go full nuclear. It just means that, like, be confident and have the tenacity to make sure that you're comfortable with what's happening. And it happens to players on all different levels. I've seen really good, Brad Chester last year at LVO. He would have won had the game gone to turn 5, but they just didn't play fast enough. Nobody was cheating there, but they just didn't play very fast. And it only really dawned on him after the game where he was like, man, if we would have gone on, I would have won. Well, even if you're friends with the guy, be confident enough to be like, hey, I need this to go faster. I want to finish this game. And your opponent will probably, acquiesce and acknowledge and go with that. But if you lose because the two of you are just too chill and it really bothers you, you can't get that back. And especially if you travel, that sucks, right? So just be, let that motivational speech hopefully hit some nerve in your head. And there's a lot of people too that get kind of locked up on like, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. Like at the table, do I punch him in the face and say like, no, we're checking the book?
In line with this point a little bit, like sportsmanship, and I'm actually running a grand tournament this weekend coming up, and there's going to be some new thank you. There's going to be some new players there, and part of what I'm going to like talk about in the opening ceremonies is like most of the sportsmanship issues are just a product of poor communication.
Absolutely.
And if you just talk about it, even if it's just telegraphing like, hey, this game is going to go better for the both of us if we get an extra turn in, so let's pick it up, or hey, I'm going to show you right now that I'm within 3 inches of this objective, so we don't have to talk about it later or whatever,
right.
And like this, it's just talking about it in a way that you're communicating with your opponent to help move things along to avoid what I call the feel bads.
Yep, and I always want to talk about this because it's so weird how prevalent, in my opinion, the absolute opposite is. But if you play 100 tournament games of Warhammer, I'm going to go ahead and say 87 of them are very nice people that mean well. As long as you talk it out, it's probably fine. State your intentions exactly like you're saying. That's fine. And that's even being generous. It might be higher than 87, but there's only like the 13% is someone who picks up a dice a little bit too quick or does and says some of these things that might actually fall into the category of like, someone's taking advantage of me and it doesn't feel good.
You're right. It's not the degenerate behavior you're describing is nowhere near the norm for this type of stuff. So if anyone is thinking about going to their first tournament, listen to the first tips and understand that these things, these boogeymen that we talk about, the 200 comment generators in a post or whatever, are the extreme minority. We talk about it a lot, or people talk about it a lot, but it's the extreme minority.
Yep.
Yeah.
90, and like you said, and I love your point too, and I think it's an awesome thing for a TO to announce, but just for people to hear here as well, just talk through your stuff. If you look at somebody and say, I believe they're within 3 inches here, that's their moment to be like, it doesn't look like it. Can you measure that for me? Or something like that. But if you just move them there, look at them, and then move on, that might feel like you checked, but that's not Warhammer etiquette. You know, if you end up being 4.5 inches off, but you didn't say anything, and you're like, oh, I thought I was within 3. Your opponent could be amazing and be like,
story, yeah. Yeah. But we have these tools, like we have all these ways, like our verbal communication, the physical tape measure things. I mean, these are stuff that, or even if you feel like your opponent is doing something, and I don't even mean that your opponent has intent to do something. They may be doing something that their gaming group does. That's just how they do it, but it's not how you do it. It might not be right. Maybe it is. You don't know. Like, I mean, or there could be some doubt. Talk about it right then, and that's not poor sportsmanship. You know, that's not at all. A rules discussion is not a sportsmanship issue.
No. And it makes the game so much more relaxed anyways, too. I actually had a discussion on this on the competitive 40k page on Facebook, and Ganya was talking about his game with Reese. And to be honest, I love Reese, but he can sometimes end up being a little bit of a faster and looser player as well. And he, of course, does not mean anything bad by it at all. He's not cheating. He's not trying to get one up on you, but it just is his play style. So just using him as an example, because he's secure enough for me to do this.
I love playing games with Reese, by the way.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great opponent. Challenges you in every way. But if for some reason something makes you uncomfortable, if you verbalize that, like I'm saying, 90 or whatever, some arbitrary high percentage of people are going to be very receptive to that. You're not going to have the guy who's like,
what I really meant was this. That's what they're going to say, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, cool, right. Let's keep going. And that took 3 seconds because time is an issue in some of these games.
Exactly.
And it's so much better to handle it on the front end instead of kicking yourself on the back end.
Exactly. And like I said, I think a lot of people have had this experience, but don't let it happen to you. Just take it from our experience, where you do the thing where you're like, oh, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but then a couple days later you're like, you know, I actually went 4-1 and I missed the top 16, 8 or 32 or whatever. Had the tournament of my life. You know, I'm thinking of like the Blood Angel player from last LVO. He is by all metrics not a particularly good tournament player in the sense that he hasn't won tournaments and had big success, but he was having the dream tournament. Imagine if somebody just told him like, no, that's how this is, and he missed that opportunity because he didn't want to, you know, ruffle a feather or something like that. So,
I mean, we strayed a little bit far from the point of like how to stay sharp when traveling. Yeah. I mean, and it's not even like not to Europe. I mean, if you're going 1 hour off, sometimes that's enough to just shake you out of your comfort zone into how to kind of realign, get things going, you know, playing your game kind of thing without a compromise to your opponent. You know, that's kind of like the main focus, I think.
Right.
So yeah, but you do it consistently. Again, you know, I'm a big a fan of your approach to the game and ways to consistently do well at tournaments. And so again, I just kind of assumed there had to be some system that you had. Mine is having chaperones and protein bars and energy drinks.
Yeah.
Yours, to put it, I guess briefly, seems to be kind of focus and drive and having setting your own expectations of what a good time is.
Yeah. I'm like the competition is how I have fun. So just everything about that is just making sure that that's the case. And I am a hardcore player, but I'm also like kind of anal retentive in the sense that like I want it to be determined on the table. Yeah. I don't want to out argue somebody, even though that has happened in the past, but it just feels like a cheap and win. It's not good. So I'm, you know, going off my own experience, it's not how I want to win. I don't want to have them lose on a technicality. I don't want them to feel
no asterisks.
No, nothing like that. I want it, and that's what I love about Warhammer is you can feel like you played a game and you beat somebody with your mind and you had this really cool army and you took advantage of the table, that kind of stuff. So in that, if I can get it to that situation, then that's how I have fun. So all my advice is about creating that atmosphere.
That's awesome. Can we get more specific now and talk about what's your approach to the army that you took? I mean, I know you took something that would travel well.
Yeah.
But it's more than that. Like you I mean, you obviously had some aspirations of how well it would do. How did you come to that approach? Because I base some of my armies on what I take. Like if I'm how far I'm traveling, what's going to fit in what bag and whatever. So where do you find that balance?
Yeah, so part of it for sure was that it travels well. The custodian army obviously is elite. The bikes are actually pretty sturdy. And I put them in a soft case with foam in there, and I don't have them in like Praetor shaped foam. I just have them kind of free flowing in an ocean of chopped up foam. And I don't check that obviously.
It's brave.
It feels brave, but it's as long as they're not touching and rubbing up against each other, and I can avoid people slamming into me at the airport, it's worked great.
They're pretty sturdy models. Like they are marine. Like even their lances are like thick as far as the standard of plastics go.
Yeah, I mean they got the pointy spears, so you have to be really careful about not having that pointed straight down at the bottom of your case, and then you accidentally apply pressure and it snaps. You don't want anything like that to happen. But that was part of it. The other part, the very honest answer is I'm just absolutely gushing over Custodians. They're just so fun. It's just a fast army, powerful. They are good and competitive, but when you play them, it's like playing a bunch of heroes. Somebody said that on Warhammer TV, and it just has really resonated with me. It's like playing an army of heroes.
Dude, I love when you can have one model do something. I mean, I know that people don't like Hero Hammer or whatever, but my love of this goes all the way back to like Fantasy Battle 3rd edition with like a Khorne lord on a horse and the flail of skulls or something just running around wrecking stuff.
Yep, it absolutely is that. A lot of times your unit gets depleted down to the 1 or 2 guys, and then they're just still so darn good that they can have these really heroic moments, and it's fun. But at list design, and I'm not really proud to admit this because I think it's kind of stupid, but I did not really look at the missions. I did not.
Well, there were some Maelstrom components, right? I mean, so.
Yeah, but even that I didn't really take into account with my army. It was more of a like, what would be fun and good to play. And I think Custodies almost, and this really chaps some gears for people, which is I find funny, but Custodies really do need probably guard ally almost every single time.
Sure.
The command points is really nice, but the bigger deal is the bodies. So Custodies attract every bullet that's possible in that game. And then if they're doing that, they're dying and killing, but they're probably not scoring or holding an objective. And if they are, that's an overcommitment anyways. But if you have 30 some odd guardsmen that are just being ignored and they're just sitting on objectives and they're moving around and positioning themselves for endgame scoring, then that synergizes really, really well. And then the last kind of component to my list was I really also feel that Custodies absolutely need at least a Calexis. And I didn't know how smart that was. So it's just kind of me being like a caveman that built fire. This is not by design. It was like this is something that just happened. But right now in the meta, all over the place, this is Europe, but also over here, you're going to start seeing Magnus, 3 Tzeentch Demon Princes, Ahriman, a Shaman, and then if they really want to go ham, 3 Nurgle Princes as well.
Yeah.
And the idea is like 5 of these guys have a 24-inch smite that does not suffer a -1. And then the other 3, of course, can just smite as well at their minuses, sure. But if you don't have a Calexis or some kind of
you smite with
defense,
them first, and then smite with the ones that don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
you suffer a -2 on the last guy and a -1 on the second guy, but
yeah.
Still pretty reliably getting those smites off. And if not, who cares? You're getting 5 other ones off. Yeah, I won one of my games, but it was purely because I had a Calexis, and then since then I've kept
tooling around, just.
leading the way. That was kind of the funny thing about the ETC missions as well is, ITC, you got to be scoring every turn, and it's like hold and kill, so it's kind of a different meta. It's a very different meta, in fact.
Yep.
But over there, certain missions were just like, no, at the end of the game, just be on the objectives. So I had 2 or 3 turns to have my 7-inch and then advancing Calexis just lead the way, and everything else was behind it. And my opponent saw the writing on the wall with his 7 princes and 4 characters or whatever it was.
And that's got to be frustrating when you think you've created the ultimate list and then one model kind of fools your plan a bit.
Yeah, and that is the advantage, I think, of Imperium, but specifically Custodies, is that they just gel and synergize so well with other things, which some people, like I said, they really don't like it, but for me, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Because I've been a Terran player for years, and I never got to do that kind of stuff, and now I'm like, wow, I can put this in there too, and it's like, yeah.
No, I love the versatility of the fact of these guys that they can do a little bit of shooting, do a little bit of stabbing, and you can blend in some of these other Imperial things, as you can. I mean, up to your detachment limit, obviously, but
yeah.
But there aren't a lot of points left over. So, how do you make that choice?
Well, some shortcuts to kind of pass on to people, I guess. When we first start off with Custodies, you believed you needed 3 shield captains. You really don't. They're great.
What are you telling me right now, Jeff? What do you?
Yeah. I mean, you think you need them, you don't. They're pretty points dense. They're not bad. There's not going to be like some incredible argument against them. It's just at the list building level, the reroll ones is absolutely ridiculous. So you absolutely always want one, and you need, an HQ slot or two anyways. But 2 or 3 of them, like 2's okay, but 3 is actually probably too much. It's almost 500 points, which is a quarter of your entire army.
For 3 models, that's
for 3 models.
Yep.
And that's where the elite feeling starts to kick in. Because the difference between a Praetor bike and a shield captain, at roughly almost twice the cost for the shield captain, is it twice as good? It's not. But the one and its abilities that it gives, and being a character, and all that kind of stuff, is absolutely necessary for the list. So cut out 2 of your 3 shield captains, or go down to 2. And then the other thing that I think everyone
weird, but you obviously have the success, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like someone can be like, he's wrong. No, I love my shield captains. That's totally fine. It's just that I'm finding, in my experience, the way that you fit in that Calexis, or in my case, my list has 2 of them, is with that kind of math. And I did run 3 shield captains, then I went down to 2, and now some of my lists have just 1, and I'm not really turning back.
I mean, I'm being slightly tongue-in-cheek and sarcastic a bit, but what you're describing is like not holding on to these sacred cows that you see, you hear. Everyone knows you have to take 3. That's just what you do. You just load it up. It's in Battlescribe. As soon as you click it on, it brings up this. That's just and there's been throughout the editions, there's been things like that. Like you always take 3 Helldrakes. You always take this. You take. I mean, you know what I'm saying. And what you are saying, and I agree with, is don't let that really influence. Don't let that get in the way of you winning.
Yep.
And at some point in time, you do have to make that choice. It's like, if I can kind of take it down to a really granular level, it's like choosing to advance or shoot or whatever. It's fun to fire all your shots, but it's also really fun to be within 3 of that objective and win.
Yep. Yeah. And it's interesting. Yeah. I think the other pieces of advice I would give is, and people are kicking on to this as well, but like a Vexilla Praetor is really good, because a lot of the lists you're seeing now aren't battalions of Custodes. They're instead just, 3 units of bikes and a single HQ, or maybe 2. But then you fit in that Vexilla Praetor so that you have an infantry Custodes model, so that you can have access to the Tanglefoot Grenade, which it doesn't have all the matchups, but you get like a Bloodletter Bomb that wants to be charging you, and then all of a sudden it just absolutely can't, because you just chuck the grenade at it. That's pretty massive. That's a pretty big deal. And there's other examples too. It doesn't
work saying like hiding that dude within like some guard or whatever, and so that's an extra round that you bought yourself because they can't even touch your screen to get rid of it?
Well, it's all the above. So you take the Magnifica and it gives -1, and then that's your anti-alpha strike. Your bikes are already really defensible, but now they're at -1 to hit as well. And then that character can go off and grab an objective. He can hide behind a wall. There's the teleportation stratagem, where if you have something in reserve, they can come inside of 6 of him and more than 3 away from your opponent. But that's notably inside of 9, right? You're 3.1 inches away.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting a free charge with that, and that can really catch people off guard. And then the guy packs a punch too. You usually give him the axe, and for 128 points, he's got a decent number of attacks, and he can be that backfield defender for the guard as well. So it's just a lot of synergy there with that single guy. That if you skip him, you're getting a Praetor, and then you have 28 some odd or 38 extra points, which is kind of awkward, right? So it's again that kind of math that you're doing.
I was going to say this is a very flashy army, but I'm not trying to make a pun or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all, but you can get caught up easy. And with this army and others of like, that's a really powerful thing by itself. I need to just load up on that. But what you're talking about is again, focus more on how to use the figures and the abilities, the less overly blatant, obvious, awesome abilities to shave out advantages against opponents.
Yeah. And I think it's just over, I don't know how many games I played, but I played a lot of games with them, and I'm just kind of finding over time what's working as well. It's not so much the 18 bikes and 2 shield captains that's going to do really, really well. It's kind of a fun balance. You're starting to see things too, like 3 units of bikes, and then the guy that won the London GT Open had 2 bikes units of 3, and then 1 of 8, I think it was. So I never got to pick his brain on that, but I'd love to hear that. For me, that's a giant liability of someone casting Jink and Doom on that big unit, and it just goes bye-bye.
Which is
Or marker
common.
lights.
You're going to face that, even if it's not the boogeyman anymore. You will face that in round 2 or 3.
Yeah, so in light of him winning with that, my advice is have smaller units. I don't like 3. I think 4 is the minimum you go for. Like 3 units of 4 is pretty cool to me. Something along those lines. It's not an exact science. You can have a unit of 3 and then a unit of 6, etc., but those guys with hurricane bolters zipping around with a shield captain kind of tying them together is a pretty incredible, very powerful thing.
Those hurricane bolters are so deadly in this edition.
Yep,
yeah,
they're huge.
Yeah, if you ask me. And they have, and you factor in things like the flag keyword. I mean, there's all these little things that add up to if you really kind of master all that stuff, you can squeeze out some wins that maybe weren't there, and maybe things that might not occur to you when you're fatigued in game 3 or whatever, until you get, make yourself real familiar.
Right.
Not to put you on the spot or anything, but while we're talking about these subtle advantages and things to look for within a codex, like, I'm not even sure that I've heard the words Tanglefoot Grenade come out of anyone else's mouth. I don't think I have, in any circles. Are there any other sleeper units in any codex that you think that are being underutilized in the current tournament scene?
Well, it's kind of fun. There's things that like people reveal as pretty good, and then it catches on and starts to become more in vogue. I was made to believe. I'm a believer. I'm sipping the Kool-Aid on ion hammerheads for Tau. That is just savage. And on paper, it doesn't seem that incredible. But with what Long Strike does for them, and then how many bodies they can put on the ground as well, just because hammerheads are not that expensive, is pretty darn good.
Are you referring like a bunch of crew or breacher squads? I think there's some debate.
All the above. I prefer breachers just because points-wise they're fairly similar, and the damage output is really savage. Because you can have Dark Strider and a Fire Cadre in there as well, and it all maxes out pretty quickly.
And for those that aren't familiar, what does Long Strike do for this that you think makes it, like, pushes
it gives +1 to hit to all the other hammerheads within 6 off of his big-ass hole. So it takes kind of that bad-ish ballistic skill of Tau, and it makes it pretty reliable. So they're hitting most things on 3s. And then I can't remember what else he does, but as long as you have a decent number of marker lights, you're getting an additional +1 to hit for most of those guys.
People say it's all about the marker light still. You have to build that into your strategy.
And it is. And to your point too, I used to be the person, and I think this is a holdover from 7th, where it was like, you just need minimum marker lights, like, a couple different sources. Alex made me a believer that like 3 marksmen, several 2 units at least of Pathfinders. I think Fireblade throws one. All that kind of, like, all those guys chucking marker lights is a pretty darn big deal.
Is that because you've got to basically use them all that when you go to use them, or because the edition is more lethal, so your sources for the marker lights get picked up faster? I mean, what do you?
Yeah, I think it's all the above. I think part of it is that you're going to lose those marker lights, like you said, and they're just such a big deal because there's a lot of -1 to hit and even some -2 in this edition, and that especially just absolutely shuts down Tau. But if they can get up to those 5 marker lights and they're getting +1 and they have some good weapon systems and that kind of thing, and they start hitting on 3s or 2s, you feel it immediately. Like you understand why their list skill is pretty because if it was as good as you're being hit by right now, whatever it is you have is just melting.
If it's a 3 and it negates the special rules of every powerful army.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No, that's actually a good tip. You don't see Tau right now. Like, at least not, you can't bank on running into it over the course of an event.
Yeah.
And I think that's because people haven't gotten rid of those perceptions of, wait, what do you mean my 5 Riptides aren't good anymore? The whole codex isn't good.
Right. And then I guess just kind of the other sleeper units you're going to start seeing more of is like, some Dark Eldar stuff, obviously. Like, they're winning tournaments. People are seeing that. But what's really fun about them is that if you look at the list, unlike a lot of times when an army starts winning tournaments, there's not like 3 units of that one thing that obviously is just over the top good, right? Like, it's a bunch of the eclectic units. You're seeing Archons, obviously. You're seeing Ravagers. You're seeing Raiders. But then you're seeing Talos, you're seeing Witches, you're seeing...
Taloses are great.
They are
my
great,
standout pick, basically, of the Codex.
Yeah, in a great Codex, which it's hard to go wrong. And Scourge are really good, too.
Well, they're great at shooting things down. I mean, you're actually doing, to plug you real quick, you're doing some Codex reviews on your YouTube channel and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where can people find that, just so it doesn't get lost?
Yeah, sure. So it's In Control TV on YouTube, and I do them as close as I can to the embargo date, but I'm usually traveling. So like the night one I just did last night, which is 2 days after the embargo.
Gotcha. But so you've gone through things like the Dark Eldar, the Drukhari and the Harlequins and whatnot. And I think that the basically the new Haywire rule is pretty deadly.
Yeah, and Harlequins have D6 shot haywire guns as well, which is like
assault. I mean, that's
assault D6. Yeah,
they're on the back of things that move 30 or something. I mean, not to discuss the whether or not that's a great choice, as an army or whatever. But the rule for haywire is essentially on a 4+, you're doing a mortal wound, and then if you happen to wound the thing you're shooting at, you're doing even extra damage.
Yeah, it's on top of the regular damage, and then the 6 is D3 mortal wounds. So,
and I believe the Drukhari work in a similar way.
Yeah, I believe so.
If I don't have, not to put you on the spot, I don't have it in front of me, but I mean, I think that's something that if you can look at effective caddies for that weapon, you're going to, I mean, in these things, we're talking, they're a handful of points. They're, I mean, 100 and change, for lots of shots to do this kind of stuff. And with the way the missions are currently being designed, I mean, across almost every tournament format, the army itself is innately really good at winning the missions.
Yeah, and it's fun too, because with a lot of these codexes, getting a little bit off topic, but I guess just speaking to Dark Eldar in particular, like one of the most fun things for me about them is that you don't get to play 8th edition Warhammer just by like, okay, what codex is it? I don't care. I'm just taking all the offensive stuff, drop down, shoot, kill, and that's how I play. A lot of the codexes ask that you play differently, and Dark Eldar is really that way. Like a really good Dark Eldar player has huge board control and has like little pockets of units all over the place doing different things, being surprisingly tenacious, but also you're picking up heaps of your models, right? Like every Dark Eldar game, you're losing 85% of your guys, but the question is, how much did you kill and how much did you score in that time?
Unless you got a bunch of Talos.
Yeah, well, if you go Mega Elite with Dark Eldar, I guess you're not picking up your models very much, but I just love that. I think that's really cool. And with each codex that's coming out, we're seeing more of that, right? Like with the Knights, they too ask that you play in a very different way, and I like that each Knight has kind of a different feel. So you're going to see more Gallants running up the field going 20 some odd inches and still being able to charge. You're going to see Valiants, and their whole job is to just get right up in your face and become a problem. But then you're also going to see Crusaders and Castellans sitting in the backfield guarded by Helverin armigers that are going to be chucking damage at you from a distance.
Those are pretty brutal.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, those are actually pretty brutal. And I like with the stratagem, the death grip.
Oh my god!
I think that's going to hurt some people's feelings.
It's just so funny. Like, it's so powerful, but
in a good way. I mean, I'm being sarcastic, right? I agree.
Oh yeah. I mean, in most scenarios, the only time that it would really upset somebody is, you grab Mortarion or Magnus, and just by sheer luck of the roll, you outroll them 3 or 4 times, and they're like, "What's going on?" And you're crushing them with your fist.
That's right. I'm supposed to be awesome. What is happening?
Yeah. That's going to make for an amazing story. That's why I like it so much. But the other the scenario that's going to happen and piss off people is you're going to jump on a Farseer or, a company commander, and you're just going to be like, well, I'm squishing you now, and they're done.
While you're saying the phrase, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?
Exactly.
Oh, man, I think it's a cool stratagem. I'm typically not a fan, and again, I'll try to stay on topic. I know I'm the one leading this off here, but I'm typically not a fan of like stratagems that make you use the stratagem and then roll some dice afterwards.
Yeah,
with the potential to fail. But I think the Knight book really kind of makes that work.
It's balanced well, right? Like it's only one command point to do that, but if everything does go correctly, it's extremely powerful. To your point. Whereas if it was, it's very powerful, but if it was like 3 command points and then you just don't hit, because remember you have to hit with this, right? And then you have to outroll them. So like you said, there's several checks against this actually doing anything at all. But it's only 1 command point. So if you whiff, you're like, damn, you escaped my death grip this time. But if you get them, they're like, wow.
But there's several stratagems like that. Like when I'm going through a book, and people ask me all the time, like, how can you glance at a book and determine what's powerful? And I look at things. What's the most reliable thing in there? What happens all the time? Like the old school Kodiaz. Like Kodiaz used to be super cheap and did everything all the time. So obviously that's that's a silly example. Of course he's valuable or whatever, but that's what you look through. And so when there's stratagems that make you burn a couple of command points and then you have to roll to see if it happens, you kind of like, when am I ever really going to feel comfortable doing this? When is this going? It's going to be a good story when it works, but I'm not going to bank my strategy around it happening.
Right.
But I think the Knight Codex really does because there's several of them in there that function that way. And you're right, there's a good balance to them, I think. You get a really big reward for your commitment to wanting to do it.
Yep.
Or wanting to try it, is what I should say.
And what probably happens in a lot of scenarios is you get 1 or 2 squeezes off and you do 2d3 mortal wounds, which is really powerful, but maybe doesn't kill what you're targeting. In which case, it just feels like you did something strong, but not, game-ending type of thing.
You're doing Hulk against Loki there in the Avengers, just
right.
Around. Oh,
it's actually really intelligently balanced, too, because it's
Yeah.
literally, if they tie or exceed, then they break your grip. So even a Strength 3 Farseer can roll a 6, and if you roll a 1, then they actually, disengage, which I think is very awesome, because what you're afraid of is something that can't be stopped, right? Like if there's a guy out there that's strength 2, which I guess there are, like Nurgles or something. Well, maybe not even.
It only
Anyways.
works against a single model unit. That's I know we kind of danced over it, and I'll have an explanation probably before this about what it does, but we'll.
Sure. My point was just that you wouldn't like a stratagem where it's just like, oh, the math adds up. There's nothing you can do. This literally just kills you.
If this touches your Bane Blade, then you automatically win, kind of thing.
Yeah, which we had in 7th. There's moments like that. Like there's the toughness debuffs where if they got you to 0, you just died. And that felt weird. That felt bad. It didn't feel like Warhammer. So it's very cool to see how intelligent they're being about all that balance.
Yep, indeed, man. This is a really great. I mean, we say this a lot. At least I do anyway. This is a great time to be a 40k player.
Heck yeah, man.
I mean, I really like how the edition is shaping up, and I have nothing but like good feelings as we move deeper into it.
Same here.
So, any other little standout sleeper units you'd like to discuss? Again, I kind of put you on the spot, but we turned it into a segment here. So.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like the discussion on it. I don't know that there's sleeper units, but I like that there's like a semblance of understanding that's happening. So like Tyranid lists are very much so. It used to be, pack as much Hive Guard and Biowars as you can in there. And now people are pretty, and I think intelligently so, going for the 1 unit of 6 Hive Guard, dropping all Biowars because they're good, but the like Tyranid gun line doesn't really play out that well. And then a couple units of Gene Stealers, and then you're seeing more Swarm Lord, and then still the 3 Flyrants. And I think that's like your basis, and then you can add some flavor to it on top of that. You're seeing a lot of Tyranid lists that way, and that's pretty cool. It's cool because it's a balanced, assault and shooty list that has different elements into it, using its stratagems, and it's got a psychic phase and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun seeing Tyranids congeal into that area, I guess.
I do like models that can compete in every single phase. That's why you saw so many Hive Tyrants. I mean, they can do something all the time, and Tyranids have lots of those things. I mean, the rule of 3, I think it's a great rule. I think match play, and I'll say this, I've said it before, but that's something that's manipulatable. Like the game can evolve with those couple of pages of rules.
Yep.
That has happened, but there are lots of things in the Tyranid book that can compete in every single phase.
Yep.
And if that's something that interests you, check out some of these other units. So let's say, hypothetically, there's a tournament tomorrow. What do you take? You have no concerns over travel, of what fits in a box, and it's an ITC mission format. We'll stay something that I know you're familiar with.
Sure.
What do you take with and not necessarily something on your shelf right now, but what do you think is going to be a great winning army during this upcoming during this ITC season?
Yeah, I mean, list building with ITC, you need to score objectives and kill something every turn. Like, that's just the bare bones what you want to do. And then, of course, you're looking for ways to game not having too much Reaper, not having a big singular thing that's going to die every time that gives up, Kingslayer or Titan Hunter, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like the deeper level of that. But I think Guard is on the rise. I think you're going to see some really good synergy between Knights and Guard. People are just also kind of figuring out the standout units in Guard. So at London GT, but some of these other terms, we're seeing people shift over to Catachan units and having them.
That's my favorite. That's what I'm.
Oh yeah, having them balloon up into units of 20, 30, 40 infantry, and then there are strength 4 with 3 or 4 attacks depending on how you go about doing it with like a Ministorm Priest and stuff like that. That's really good with artillery behind it, and then all of a sudden you plop down a Castellan or something, and now it's a Baneblade but way more defensible, and it's chucking out high damage at you from a range as well, and they're pushing forward with a horde of bodies. That's just a good ITC army. It scores powers, it doesn't give up kill points very easily, potentially anyways, and then it can kill things each turn. So that's going to be something to look out for. And there's going to be more Dark Eldar as time goes on as well. I really like the 3 Hemlock, Farseer, Dark Reapers, and maybe a Spirit Seer. Like that detachment on top of Dark Eldar is insane, because then they're dropping Doom and Jinx on units that need to die.
I think that's what I'm taking to the ATC.
Oh, it's a fantastic list. And, you know, you're going to see other ones just like it.
I'm sure. I'm positive. Yeah, that's like you can't overlook that. Like, what's really great? The Hemlock is amazing, and
oh, it's ridiculous. The fact that it's also Psyker is just so good, and you're going to see that paired with Dark Eldar. I think that's the latest bee's knees. Of course, you'll see it with Eldar as well, but Dark Eldar's got some cool stuff. I want to say you'll see Harlequins in the ITC because they have that cool mixture again of whatever they hit is dead, and then they're fairly defensible, but they're balanced pretty well where they're kind of expensive. And I think Eldar players have an embarrassment of riches, so they kind of like look at Harlequins and go, man, that would be really hard to paint. It would be really fun, but I don't know that it's better than what I have access to right now. And it's really good. It's like no one's going to tell you that Harlequins are bad, but they just have so many other good options.
Right. So, they are third on the list of Space Elves.
Yeah.
But that list is really high when ranked against everything else.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is literally just that they're hard to paint and it's an elite army. So a lot of people don't own those models.
But you're talking about it, I think, in a very good way, because we're talking about how do you compete in a certain mission set. And the Harlequins themselves, I mean, their vehicles don't have a lot of wounds, their squads aren't very big, yet they are very mobile and they have a lot of killing power.
Yeah.
So they can be places and kill things, which is like half the battle in that format.
Yeah. So you'll see a lot of that. I don't know. The BAO will be really, really interesting coming up. I know you're asking me a hypothetical, but it's going to be kind of fun.
Hypothetical, yeah.
Because we're going to see some more codexes drop by then, too. You're going to start seeing a lot of orcs once that codex comes out.
I have to, yeah. Well, I mean, the orc players, even if the codex isn't that great, you're going to encounter them because the enthusiasm is so high.
It's going to be good, though, man.
Oh, of course it is. No, look, we haven't seen a bad codex, I don't think. I think that there is a lot of good stuff out there, but I'm saying, of course, well, number one, of course, is going to be good because there's going to be a lot of time spent on it.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed. Well, man, Jeff, thanks a lot for taking the time with me today.
Yeah, it's a good discussion, man.
I know you're into other things, man, like movies and stuff. I don't think you liked Solo.
It's my whole thing on that is like I didn't dislike it. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just that if you rewind to before I started seeing concept art and stuff like that, the potential for a movie like that is so cool. And then what you get is still kind of a children's movie, still kind of, that's not really Han Solo, you know, it's like a lot of throwbacks, okay, but if you're telling me that we're going to get like a heist Star Wars movie, that would be amazing, right? Like, I want something different, and I want something to feel, because there's so much other stories to be said in the Star Wars universe. It doesn't always have to be Alliance and Imperial, and they didn't really do that in this movie, but they also didn't get too far away from it either.
I see. I can see that. To me, it gave me everything I think I needed. It had things in there that made it feel like Star Wars. It was a light heist type movie. It wasn't the I was going to say grim dark, but of Rogue One. That was that was technically a heist movie.
Yeah,
if you ask me. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I just wanted to kind of poke fun at you a little bit. And
it's fine, yeah.
But again, we've had movie discussions before, Aliens and other things. So I mean, our interests are aligned in lots of places, but I got to go the other way with Solo.
That's fine. That's good.
But being a Star Wars fan all my life, like a lot of other people, for me, it actually, I mean, again, I enjoyed it. I thought that the characters did a great job.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was taken too far out of the seat.
Yeah, they're safe. I think that's another criticism against them.
Fair enough. But to me, I wanted that. I wanted to feel like I was actually looking at a young Lando and a young Han. And I feel like I got it. There was a couple of things that maybe the storytelling was like, that seemed like it was a weird cutscene.
Yeah.
But everything else I thought was moving it along, and I liked some of the casual throwbacks, even the mentioning of other characters that weren't on screen, but yet to tie it into continuity. I thought it was all right.
Nice.
I like that part. But maybe we can have a spirited debate about movies another time, but I wanted to bring it up while I had you.
Well, thank you.
Man, what's next for you tournament-wise? BAO, is that the next big one, or is there you got some things in between?
Yeah, I think it's the BAO, just July, right? Is that when that is?
It's coming up soon, I believe.
Yep. So that'll be the next one. I'm just traveling all month for work and stuff like that.
Working on any new armies? I mean, I know you are a collector.
Yeah. I when they announced that the Custodians are getting everything from 30k, I couldn't help myself. So I have 2 tanks coming. I got the Orion Super Heavy Flyer, and then I got 2 units of the Shooty Custody Guard guys.
That flyer is big.
Yeah, it is big.
Way bigger than the pictures, like on the Forge World site, I think leads you to believe. But it is. Do you have it yet?
I have the box. It's not assembled or anything.
It's going to be big.
I'm excited. And then right now, one of my good friends and artists, Israel, is painting up a Knight Valiant. But I also have a couple. I want to have the Castellan as well. So I will have a expanding Knight army, because I already had 5 or 6 Knights, but now I'm going to have like 2 or 3 more.
He does beautiful work. He's the guy that's done some stuff for you in the past, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's actually beautiful work.
And that's it for me. I'm not going to get orcs. I'm not going to get Space Wolves or anything like that. This should be the. I mean, if they hit it out of the park with Gene Circle, who knows? They already announced to me new models. Fall.
That news out of Warhammer, was it Game Expo?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was Gene Stealer cults. I mean, those bits are amazing. By the way, you can use them for any human-based figure.
Yeah,
it's going to be cool to see what they do with that army. I want it to be powerful too, and capture that, because that's some of like the old like roots of 40k, if you ask me, are based in the Gene Stealer cults.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for taking the time and let me pick your brain about stuff. Hopefully, I can reach out again to you in the future.
Absolutely. I'd love to come on.
Have a good night.
All right, you too, man. Thanks.
Forged Narrative is brought to you by Dicehead.com. www.dicehead.com. Games, hobby, supplies, and comics. They have it all.
Hey everybody, we are back. I hope you enjoyed that additional content. We're going to have a supersized episode next week as well, with a couple of really cool guests, and maybe whatever Val kicks up. We'll see how that one goes. But looking forward to it. Back with the guys, got Ricky and Val.
Hey, that's me.
That's also me.
Chris Morgan and Justin Troop.
I'm on a quest.
I like Lamp.
Guys, I have an important announcement. I'm no longer involved in Warzone Atlanta. We're kind of still discussing what that means, but really proud of what I was able to accomplish, and going to use that growth into some other events that are upcoming. Please stay tuned to this space for some other tournaments we're going to be announcing and hoping. Got a really cool idea for some things, and it's been really cool to hear from folks that are also looking to run some tournaments with us. Y'all keep your ears peeled. You can't peel ears. It's eyes peeled. What's the ears tuned?
Ears open?
Open?
Stay alert.
Well, you can't close an ear either.
Ear to the ground or something like that?
Yeah, ear to the ground. That works. I like that, Ricky.
Yeah, there we go.
This weekend, the Louisville Slugga is happening, so I'm going to expect some coverage from that coming out on the Facebook pages, and of course, we'll talk about how it went. Really looking forward to that. So it's the inaugural Slugga, the first grand tournament in that area. We are at official ITC grand tournament, knocking on the door of major already. Looking again, just listen for the coverage, listen for things that are coming out. Really excited about some of the things moving forward. But let's talk about a couple of those relics that we were talking about in the previous segment. Well, now I guess it should be 3 segments ago.
That's an eternity.
Are we the independent characters now? What's going on?
Oh my gosh.
I'm pretty sure the Space Wolves Codex has actually come out since the start of the episode.
Don't tease me.
Who's playing the orcs? Okay. The what we were talking about a little bit earlier was the banner of the Macarius Triumphant. And this is a Questor Imperialis Questor class model only. Add 1 to leadership characteristic of friendly Imperium units within 6 inches of the bearer. In addition, if the bearer is within range of an objective marker, as specified in the mission, it controls that objective marker even if there are no more enemy models within range of the same, or even if there are more enemy models within the range of the same objective marker. If an enemy unit within range of the same objective marker has a similar ability, then the objective player is called by the most models. If this is the case, however, the knight counts as 10, being 10 models. So if you have 2 OBSEC things together, this guy counts as 10 to add up, see who breaks the tie.
Personally, I would like to have seen every Imperial Knight have that rule, but you know what? It's still a great relic. If every Knight had that rule, Knights would be a force to be reckoned with in tournament play, I think. However, just having 1 is a factor. And let's be honest, if you're setting a knight right on top of an objective, it's going to be real hard for somebody to get close enough to that objective without them getting stuck in combat. And if you, in a knight, can't stomp something down to less than 10 models,
especially these gallants that we're wanting to play with.
Val's 5 gallants.
15 Titanic feet attacks plus your gauntlet extra attack.
Mm-hmm.
No big deal. No big deal.
Fighting twice if you want.
Let me just say, I think that this may be in the contention for one of the coolest named relics in 40k right now.
It does sound epic. I'll give it that. I mean,
do you know who Lord Macarius is?
Oh, it's got a paragraph.
Solar Macarius.
The Lord Solar himself.
Lord
I
Solar
still have
himself.
him.
That's
I
right.
have him. The old metal one still.
His rules were bonkers. If you included him in your army, you always went first.
Give me that.
You know how they do the like throwback, like they'll bring models back for sale. He's the only one I've ever actually bought.
It's great. His staff and his armor. It's
so sick.
Yeah,
you got to be a confident dude to wear that outfit into battle.
Well, this banner works pretty well. Add one to the leadership of characteristic of friendly Imperium. It's not knights. It's not Imperial Guard. It's just Imperium units get +1 in their leadership.
And that's good because really in a knight army, your leadership isn't going to really do much for you.
Yeah, but remember though, I mean, there are things that can affect leadership. Is it dominate or whatever? Isn't that a leadership?
Yeah, I know that there are certain things that will impact that, but I would say by and large, that's kind of an outlier.
Yeah, but most knight armies, let's face it, are going to have guardsmen.
Yeah,
and
well, you're going to have the one Primaris Psyker that we described earlier.
Val's one Primaris Psyker.
Right. Val's army list.
It's 5 gallants and a guard battalion, so this would be a very appropriate use of that.
You're not taking the armigers? Oh my goodness.
No, because that gets me to 5 gallants, and I'm sorry, Mr. Armiger, but I'm bringing 2 arms.
Fair enough. You got two guns of your own. The Knight Codex has 4 pages of relics.
Lord, serious?
Not kidding. It's 4. I mean, technically there's a picture on the 4th page, so it's 3.5 pages of.
Okay,
relics.
Well that's more realistic. Okay.
Almost enough relics to fit on every single knight you could put on it. Never mind.
You and your 4 buddies could all make knight armies, and you still have relics left over.
Challenge accepted.
Oh, but I think it's cool that they're in here, so you can get a little creative. And one of them is the Armor of Sainted Ion. The wearer's knight has a save characteristic of 2+.
Done. Taken. Next.
I mean, that's
huge.
Really
that's
good.
That, in my opinion, I'm biased, but that's what all knights should be at anyway. It's taken. Done.
There is a relic called Sanctuary. Sorry, these are the heirlooms of the noble houses. That's what it is. It gives the bearer a 5+ invulnerable save against ranged and melee weapons.
Good.
Well, that stacks goes into with we talked about that stratagem that improves an invulnerable save.
Yeah, knights all of a sudden having a 4+ in, you burn the stratagem and all of a sudden you got a 4+ invul in combat. That is where knights are really vulnerable if they don't kill everything. So,
well, we were kind of joking around about Banginius versus a knight or whatever. A knight with a 4+ invulnerable save doesn't give a crap about Banginius.
Well, it gives half a crap.
Yeah, I would say half a crap is probably a more accurate way of saying that.
Well, the damage output of a character model like that, even a Demon Prince, or heck, Magnus, goes way down.
Well, it doesn't, and the thing is, it's a deterrent. Honestly, are you going to charge in Banguinius? Are you going to charge in Magnus knowing that I've got a 5+ and I just got to burn 1 command point and half of your damage is going to get negated? It becomes a much scarier option to charge into that. So that alone will generate opportunities for you to do something.
Well, I'm going to say it right now. I don't care if you have that stratagem. I'm going to throw him in there anyways because he's probably my best chance at taking the thing. You know what I'm saying?
No, you got to, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the odds are very much in the Knight's favor in that point.
Yeah.
Well,
when you play Blood Angels, you have
my opponent a 50% chance of making that die roll. He will make that 75% of the time. When it's 5+, who cares? So
A couple of the relics are those named gauntlets we were talking about. So like the Paragon Gauntlet is a named gauntlet in the relic section.
And it's good. And Val's going to have it. We know Val's army's going to have it.
Mm-hmm.
What about the American Flag Fist? I'm
American Flag Fist.
pretty pumped about that one.
True.
Well,
I love that.
I think you hear an eagle cry when it punches. You just hear the
An explosion.
Well, the thing about the Paragon Gauntlet is it doesn't get the neg 1 to hit.
That is correct.
So
that is the thing.
Yeah, I mean that's its special ability is that you don't get the neg 1 to hit. So that stratagem we talked about with the Death Grip, you 17% more Death Grip and that much more. I like it.
Oh, it's good. And it's especially if you're running, all gallants, it's a no-brainer. You're taking it.
You're right. Running all gallants is a no-brainer. I appreciate you saying that.
Okay, I think you missed.
How many gallants you got on the shelf?
Not to point the Heffelfinger at anybody, but I really I have to question our being a proponent of this list design attitude.
Nope, do it. 5 nights go.
That is apropos of nothing, sir.
Look, I played 5 nights all through 7th edition, and I went 3-2 every tournament. So,
All right, well, I'm okay with it as long as we call it the Voltron list. There's five lions for Voltron.
How many wounds did a knight have in 7th edition?
Oh, what was it? 12? 12
It
hull
was
points?
6 hull points in 7th edition.
So
6
quaint.
hull points, yeah.
Yeah, you got 24 now. Go do your thing.
Much different though.
Yeah, just watch out for those las guns. Am I right, Ricky?
Yes.
Well, we kind of glossed over, because I'm sure other folks have talked about it, but that was essentially the flamer weapon on the giant knights.
Oh, it's so lovely. I want it.
It is the conflagration cannon.
Oh, okay. We're talking. Okay.
It's 18-inch range. Now, remember, got 10-inch movement, threat range 28, pretty good. Heavy 3d6, automatically hits, neg 2 AP, strength 7, 2 damage a pop.
Hey, Banguinius, charge that.
Yep.
He will, because he will have a jetpack that gets rid of Overwatch.
Well,
so
there's a relic called the Trader's Pyre that you get to reroll failed wound rolls. Same profile, but you reroll failed wounds.
Wait, it's the
baller.
That rerolls failed wound rolls?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm gonna have to have that.
These are good relics. I mean, I told you there's a ton of them, but I mean, I'm just kind of picking and choosing in there. They seem, whatever. You're not going to obviously be able to play with all of them.
Right.
But I think that there's some pretty good stuff in here that makes these choices, because people are gonna play them because they're cool, and in like the right situation, they're gonna do massive amounts of damage. Yeah.
Oh, and don't forget the Paragon Gauntlet. We glossed over the fact that that's damage 8 instead of damage 6.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is damage 8. Wow.
These guys are so cool, man. And, you're talking about you're not going to take every relic. You're a liar, Paul Murphy. I'm going to say it right here and right now. Because when you get that brigade of IG in there, or Asher Militarum for you.
Oh, sure. Folk, yeah.
I'm buying all the relics.
Can you put these on armigers? Can you put some of these?
Right? What does my armigers get?
I need an armiger with a plasma decimator. Does that happen?
Well, okay. We talked about a bunch of knights, right? If I can jump to the stratagems one more time, I know we're kind of bouncing around, but the Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers. I know what you're thinking. Is he talking about Stubbers? Bear with me.
This is fairly cute.
I get.
Go on, do your thing. Go.
I get asked a lot, like when you're looking at a codex, how do you figure out what's good or whatever? Like, well, some stuff is just very obvious, like things that auto hit or
heavy stubbers.
Well, the one command point stratagem of the Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers, use this stratagem before the battle. Choose one of your Imperial Knight detachments from your army. The AP characteristic of all heavy stubbers equipped on Questor Imperialis models in that detachment is changed to neg 1.
And it's how many command points?
It's 1. And it changes every heavy stubber for Questor Imperialis models in that detachment to neg 1.
You know what that's super good with?
5 gallons.
5 gallons with heavy stubbers.
Yeah. I really wish they would have just said Imperial Knight, period, because then, the stubbers on the armigers would have got buffed too, but, I'll take it. That's still pretty cool. For 1 point, too. You can't go wrong with that.
Wait, and it won't work with the armigers? I'm sorry, what I missed there, that it won't work with the armigers?
Well, it's only for Questor Imperialis. I'll check. Why not?
So
If they are, I just got extremely excited.
It says they get a heavy stubber, but it's Imperial Knights, Quester, Allegiance, Household.
Uh-oh. Well,
Yeah.
I need to order a couple more armigers.
Yeah.
And can't you put like 3 armigers in as one choice?
You can, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you could do 9 in one detachment.
Talk to me.
It's a vehicle squadron, and in the first time you deploy them.
You can do more than... Oh, no, because you can only take 3 of each battle slate. Sorry, guys.
It's a squadron that splits, like some of the other things do.
That would be hilarious, though. I mean, that's a good use of a command point, honestly.
It's one command point for all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you look at it and you think, oh, can I do something with this?
Yep.
Help me out here for a second, guys. Armigers are the ones with the close combat stuff called armigers too?
They are. There's the Warglaive and the Helverin.
All right, I'm going to call them leggagers then, because they're legging it across the table, and that way I can keep them straight in my head what we're talking about.
Whatever gets you through the night.
I really thought your puns couldn't get any worse, but you've shocked us.
I mean,
nobody noticed what Val just said there.
Booyah!
That's how terrible yours was.
See how subtle
It puts
it was,
people in
Chris?
shock.
It's so subtle.
When doing a pun, deliver it subtly, not "Hey, everybody."
The book looks fun.
No,
I mean, that's
no.
really it. Now, we're not talking about how to
Amateur.
win missions right now. We're talking about how fun this stuff looks like to play. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I'm winning the mission.
There's nothing that doesn't look fun. It's just how drunk am I going to be that I'm still having fun when I'm down to like one vehicle left on turn 2, because
that shouldn't happen though.
I don't make invul saves, and volcano cannons do a lot.
You got to get on them quick.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how we're a podcast where like 3/5 of the people right now can't roll higher than a 2 on a d6, so it's not good odds here.
That's why we have to come up with the 6 strategies to compensate for, like, how can I win this tournament rolling 3s?
Exactly. Well, that's why I was so happy when they announced Hawk Shroud's when we saw Hawk Shroud's household tactic. I was like, okay, this is okay for me because I can keep fighting at full strength pretty much until I'm dead. So I'm okay with that because I'm going to take a lot of wounds.
Were you a little insulted that they had the same power as the yellow Iandan Wraith Knights?
I'm okay with it. No, I have no problem with it.
I wonder if someone in the office published that and thought, oh, wait.
What's those other yellow guys do? Let's do that. Yeah.
The yellow guys, let's put it on there. That's the thing. That's the universe talking to you.
But let me just say, just to add on to that I am also very fond of Hawkshroud because that's the tactics I would want to run, or rather the Night House I'd want to paint up because it's close to ball. So it makes sense for me to have them.
You had to make it Blood Angels related, didn't you?
I love how, like, we as gamers just make up reasons. Like, in the galaxy, they're kind of close, so I might as well take them.
Hey, man.
38 light years.
Listen, I am the chief librarian for a reason. I know a ton of useless stuff.
I just painted one of my knights like a Blood Angel. That's what I did.
I will put a Blood Angel symbol on one as like a mark of respect or whatever.
I did on its chest shield.
I respect the knights for what they are, Paul.
On the shield on its
Not what
chest,
I
I
want
put one of the Blood Angel symbols from the Ball Predator. It looks freaking awesome, if you ask me. But I mean, whatever. Narrative being what it is, you can do what you want. Well, guys, let's go ahead and let's wrap this up. I mean, I know it's a long show, and I really appreciate everybody hanging in. And we'll be back next week to talk about some army lists. And as we get closer, of course, do a little bit of Slugger recap. We get closer to the ATC. ATC, big news, going to be running Age of Sigmar 2nd edition for their Age of Sigmar tournament.
Oh,
boom!
My gosh!
And the 40k is sold out too.
Yeah,
which is insane. It's going to be a massive, massive event.
It really is. It's one of the premier events in the country. So happy to have played in it and help get the word out for that event over the years. I mean, it's run by some of the best people in this community. I say that a lot, but I really, really mean it, and I'm so happy for their success.
Don't forget about Shadespire too. They're running the beta rules for their Shadespire.
That's beta rules. Shadespire Grand Clash. So all the hotness.
And can we?
I'm sorry. While we're still on the subject of ATC, have we checked on their policy about shooting off flares in there? So now that there's that many people, we really need to be able to find one another between rounds. So
that's one of the beauties.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Right? Exactly. We'll just pop off a few bottle rockets in the middle of that place.
Rockets red glare, baby.
I'll bring the tank. Let's do this.
That's in Richmond right now.
Well, sorry. So, what were you saying, Val?
Oh, I was just going to also shout out the fact that the largest 40k tournament on the planet sold out in 48 hours.
LVO. That's
LVO?
the largest singles event. Yeah, it's
Never heard of it.
At 512, it's pushing all of them, to be honest. Like, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I just want to tip the cap there because that's a stunning achievement.
Oh, no.
And also speaks to just how on fire the community is right now.
Going to have Reese on pretty soon. I mean, I sent him a message today. I mean, just basically out of the blue. Hey, you guys killed it. Congratulations. I'm sure he got a bunch of those, but like it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, he's gonna big time you now. He doesn't need to come and promote.
He doesn't. No, tickets are gone.
He's actually got. He's probably trying to lay low. Like, people are getting mad they can't get into that thing now.
Val representing the Great White North. I know you've been telling us about some tournaments going on up there. Which, by the way, anybody else tournaments out there in the world, happy to talk about them in your area. I mean, this is a great time to be playing 40k, and of course the tournament scene is thriving. So if there's any new events or even existing events that want to get the word out in their area, no matter where you are in the entire globe, let me know and we'll try to work them in or put them out on our Facebook page and stuff like that. Happy to do it. But as our current international correspondent,
yes, sir,
Val, anything you're preparing for up there in Canada?
Yes, well, coming up in July, I've been plugging this, wearing out my welcome wherever I can. We have the Tabletop Gaming Expo in my hometown of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's got numerous game systems being played. You got some YouTube stars running a couple of the events. It's going to be fantastic, great venue. Room for 80 40K players, so it will be a major, and it's ITC format. It's going to be awesome, and that's tabletopgamingx.com if you want to buy tickets or more information.
I will put that link in the show notes.
I would really appreciate it.
Is there a maple syrup fountain?
For you, yes, Mr. Troop.
I will
absolutely.
be there.
It might just be like Coca-Cola like syrup without any of the soda water in it. But
you can just pour it in my mouth. That's cool.
Yeah,
whatever. Close enough. Well, guys, again, thank you all for joining me, and we will talk again. See y'all next week.
See you
Good
around.
night, world.
Good night.
Thanks for listening.